Can Moneyball help us overtake a dominant force? Well, we're going to try, but there's a difference when we come to recruit players. Because I'm only going to sign players based on recommendations and recommendations from my recruitment analyst. So it's absolutely vital I build the best possible recruitment team with a massive focus on getting the best analysts possible. But once we set our recruitment analyst up, we should see results like this coming in, which will help us decide on the players. Because they're going to be in charge of recommending who we sign. Now I'm starting at a pretty big club, but obviously we've got to overthrow Bayern Munich. And despite being second favourites for the league title, you can see the difference in the odds. It's a big ask. Okay, so welcome to Dortmund. Unsurprisingly, we've got a pretty good day one squad. And because of this reason, I'm going to get myself a tactic set up, one that I want to use going forward. But as with the remit of the save, I'm not going to sign any players yet. And that's despite some really tempting free transfers. Instead, I'm going to focus on getting my staff sorted, specifically the recruitment team. I need some more scouts, and I very definitely need to get the best possible recruitment analysts that I can. Right folks, welcome to Dortmund. I hope you're ready to geek out because this is what this is going to be about. So what I'm going to do with the tactic is I'm going to set up a tactic that I want to use throughout the journey, not necessarily ones that fit the players I've currently got. So that's not the normal way I would approach things, but I'm pretty confident either way that the squad's got enough players that can play in a number of different positions that they should adapt for Season 1. And here is the tactic we're going to use. It's a bit of a 4-4-2, but I'm going to use a playmaking winger with a wing-back overlapping him. And up front, I do want two strikers. Now, out of possession does actually play into my in-possession tactics because I want the two strikers to drop back because I'm looking for pacey players to catch on the counter-attack, so they start from a little deeper. And that's where the out of possession instructions come in. We're going to drop back into a low defensive line with a mid-block. Now, because we're a good team, we will up that for games where we're favourites, probably go to standard and high press. In possession, we'll go standard, or occasions more direct. We'll see which works better. My attacking width will start narrow to get that playmaking winger in the game. And to aid that, we will progress through both flanks. And I'm going to underlap both flanks. That's because I don't necessarily want the guys out wide to cross the ball. I want them to look in field. Now that's sorted, we can get to work. So it's a good day one squad, and for Season 1, I'm just going to kind of write it off, get to the end of the season, and then I can start building the data up. Next up, I really need to up my recruitment analysts. So at the minute, I do have a couple of analysts already in place. Alan Terzic is one, but his analysing data is only good. I need to get this right up there. And the other one I've got, Yanis Alert, well, he's getting sacked because he is terrible. You've got to be harsh in this world, and Yanis is out. So the search is on for some elite recruitment analysts. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd get exceptional or superb, but at this stage, I'd take very good. And I was able to move quickly and get a couple of really good recruitment analysts in. Fabian Perdomo wants to be a technical director, but I've convinced him to take a bit of a step down. Analysing data is very good, as is his judging player ability, outstanding player potential. With a scouting knowledge of everywhere, this guy should be absolutely fantastic. Backing him up will be Italian Simone Montanaro. His abilities aren't as spectacular, but he's still a definite upgrade. Now we've got those two in and established, I'm going to get them looking for players. So as far as their particular focus goes, we're going to make it ongoing so they continuously look for new players. And I'm going to give them one each. Fabian Perdomo, he's the first man selected, and this is where we go to further details. We select objectives and stats. Then you have two options. You can either select club vision, so you're going to sign players in line with what your board want if you want to make them happy. For us though, we're going to go to analysis and stats. And this is where the Moneyball comes in because you can do things like dribbles per 90. Defending, you've got a raft of different options down there. And attacking ones as well. But although we've got them both in and I've showed you what we're going to do to set them up, I don't actually know what I need yet because some of these players might deserve a chance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give the current players half a season playing my tactics setup, see who does well, see what sort of areas we need replaced. Then I can come back to this screen knowing what I'm needing. If I need a new striker, for example, a striker that gets his shots on target, that's what we'll go for. So we'll look into that probably about halfway through the season. Because if you look at my starting 11 from day one, on the face of it, it looks pretty good. So it'd be interesting to see what players we can look to improve on. Okay, a bit of a so-so season so far. We've looked good in the Champions League, sitting in the top 5, but the Bundesliga has been a bit disappointing. We're sitting in 6th, although we are only 7 points off top. But we've lost 4 matches, which is really disappointing. We're scoring plenty of goals, we're just conceding a few too many. Now, injuries haven't helped. I haven't had my first choice strikers at all this season, really, in partnership. And midfielder Nemetcha's got a bad injury as well. So give or take a couple of players, this has been the team for most of the season. As mentioned though, the 2 strikers I want to start, Maximilian Bayer and Gerassi, they've barely played together due to injuries. When they have played, Bayer looks really good. He's got 11 in 14 and he's wanted by some big old teams. And I'm perfectly happy with his 0.7 goals per 90 and his 0.5 assists per 90 is the massive bonus as well. So somebody like him is absolutely fantastic and perfect for that centre forward role. Now, what about the other players? Because I could have some decisions to make here, because as you can see, a load of players are wanted by other clubs, so rotation of the squad could happen earlier than I thought. I mentioned that we conceded a load of goals. How's Gregor Kobel been doing? He has conceded 28 in 19 matches. But when you look at it, it's probably not his fault, because he's goalkeeping pretty damn well. And with the ball at his feet, his pass completion is good. I can't really argue with him. Now, Ryerson at fullback, he's playing wing back, he only has 1 assist. Now remember, that might be because I've adopted underlaps. You can see his assist is only 0.1 per 90, but he's up there for key passes and dribbles. Maybe I'm kind of stifling him with the team instructions. And again, he's another player wanted by Man City. So maybe down his side, I take away the underlap and just keep it for the left-hand side. Julian Brandt's been my playmaking winger, and this is an interesting one. Because as in real life, he is going to leave on a free transfer at the end of the season. And he's done pretty well for us, to be honest. 6 assists in 16 matches. Which means his creativity levels are pretty good, but I will still have to replace him at some point, so I might as well get my analysts on that job. So that's going to be the first one I set up, a new right midfielder. So I've assigned Abian Perdomo. So I'm going to select a few from this attacking section. Assists per 90 minutes, key passes per 90 minutes, and after selecting those, this is what he'll look for. He's going to look for a high statistical performance in both of those areas. Let's see what he comes up with. Karim Adeyemi down the left-hand side playing as an inverted winger. Has done well with 5 goals in 9 Bundesliga matches, 6 overall. Couple of assists, we could probably do with a few more assists out of him, but I'm perfectly happy. The main problem has been central midfield. With Nemetcha injured, Job Bellingham has played quite a lot, but he hasn't done it very well with an average rating of just 6.63. And when your performance data overview says much worse, you know you've got a bit of a problem. And ladies and gentlemen, those 2 pie charts are some of the worst pie charts I think I've ever seen. Wow, oh wow. So it's clear I need a better attacking midfielder in that position. Now, to be fair, there is one at the club. Carney Chukwuemeka has been sharing duties with Job and he's been doing it a bit better. In fact, when you look at those 2 pie charts, he's been doing it a lot better and deserves to start. But despite that, I'm still going to set up a new recruitment focus for that position. And looking into that position will be Simone Montanaro, my other new recruitment analyst. As a channel midfielder, he's got to be pretty attacking and sometimes he will end up in those wide areas. So I'm looking for chances created, dribbles per 90 and key passes per 90. Now this is early days, so I don't want to overreact too much. Those 2 positions will be good to start with, the central midfield and the playmaking winger, purely because Brandt's going to be leaving, which leads me to the next point. With all these players potentially leaving at the end of the season, hopefully, not before, that's going to be a pretty busy time for my recruitment analysts. Because let's say someone like Bayer does leave us, I know that he's given me 0.7 goals per match. There you see it, 0.7 goals per match. So if he does leave us, we'll have to set up a focus to replace those goals. But hopefully we'll have to deal with that at the end of the season. For this season, I just want to get us back into the title mix, not get too pressured for our job, and maybe these 2 recruitment focuses here that I've set up for my 2 analysts will start to bring in some results and we can check them out. The good news was the slight tweak to the tactic resulted in 4 straight big wins. The bad news was striker Gerassi is on his way. He's had his release clause triggered by 3 clubs led by Manchester United. Now this is especially jarring because he's just hit his best form of the season in his last few matches and he's got 14 goals in 17 matches. So as one of my 2 main strikers, I'm going to have to somehow replace 0.9 goals per 90 minutes. Now I do have plenty of money, 42 million plus the money coming in from Gerassi. There should be some decent players available. And this is where you can use your recruitment analysts in a different way. We haven't set up a striker program yet. However, using the scouting reports, this is a player recommended to us, Samu from Porto, great player, but also the analyst has been spending time looking at him as well. And as you can see from his player analysis, we've got a string of pros here that shows how well he's been doing in his league. So he's top 5 in terms of goals, he's top 6 in terms of shots per 90 minutes, expected goals, he's number 7, shots on target, down in 12th. This will give us a good idea if the player is going to be right for us. So alongside creating a recruitment focus specifically using your recruitment analysts, we can also use the player recommendation list from the other scouts. Find a player, check out his scout report, and see what your analysts make of him. Unfortunately for me, deadline day was looming, so I wouldn't have time to replace Jurassic, but I did take the time to build a shortlist full of strikers and some of the midfielders that have been recommended to me. For the rest of this season, the striker role is going to be adopted by either Fabio Silva, who hasn't been great this season, or I moved Karim Adeyemi up front, and he's more of a goal threat, having bagged 9 in the Bundesliga. I'm just hoping it doesn't stop our momentum, because at the minute we're flying and putting pressure on Bayern. But despite the transfer window being closed, the recruitment analysts have pulled up a couple of gems. Tyler Morton could be the answer for that central midfield slot. Remember, as part of that focus, I wanted chances created, dribbles per 90, key passes per 90. And he was one of the recommended, and he actually goes above that because in Ligue 1 with Lyon, he is top of the league in terms of assists. His open play assist is 6th, expected assists is top 10. Overall, he looks like a cracking option. The problem is the massive fee. We'll see if that goes down by the end of the season. And I think I've found the striker I want for next season. Cucho Hernandez, who's at Betis, the Colombian. So this season he scored 10 in 28 matches. Scouts love him, absolutely a load of pros, and more importantly, the analyst agrees because they have discovered that he is the most shots per 90 minutes in La Liga. He is top. And think of the strikers in that league. His expected goals are 13.2. Again, top. Non-penalty XG, top of that. Shots on target, top of that. Most shots. 4th in shots on target, he looks like a must sign. My big issue is always going to be these valuations. I'm going to have to spend big, it seems, if I want the best players. Anyway, we got on with things and went into the second half of the season, and we played Bayern Munich. This is the big one for us. And despite not making any transfers, the new look strike force of Bayer and Fabio Silva, well, they came out on top on this one as we battered our rivals 3-0. It was a bit of a dream counter-attacking performance, as we didn't have much of the ball, much of the match momentum, but we created the better chances and battered them. And with the season coming to a close, we clinched that deal for Cucho Hernandez. He maintained his fine form in La Liga with the first place in terms of expected goals, non-penalty XG, top 3 for shots on target, and he finished top 10 in terms of goals scored, sealing the deal for a fee that will rise to 35 million. I followed that up with that signing of Tyler Morton for our new midfield position. He's going to cost 27. And he also maintained his form, finishing top of the league in Ligue 1 in terms of assists and top 10 for open play expected assists. So overall in the second half of the season, despite losing one of our main strikers in Jurassic, we did pretty well. Bayern didn't win the league, but neither did we, because we finished top 3. But I'm feeling good going into next season with those 2 new signings lined up. And also, after finishing top 5 in the league phase of the Champions League, we comfortably got rid of Bilbao in the last 16, got past Juventus in the quarters, and we just demolished Atletico Madrid in the semis, meaning in our first season we've shockingly got a final coming up against Arsenal. And the boys took the lead in the Champs final. But despite having the better of the match and the chances, Arsenal overcame us 3-1. So we finished trophyless, but I'm quite happy with the season. Remember, the main goal here is to get to the top of the Bundesliga, and we're making decent progress. As far as the team for this season, do we need to replace any other positions? We know we've got a new striker on the way in Cucho Hernandez and a new midfielder, a creative one in Tyler Morton. But the more holding midfielder could be another position that we need. Marcel Sabitzer played there most of the season, and it was pretty average in honesty. So I'm going to look for a new central midfielder. Now this search will be slightly different to the more attacking central midfielder. I'm going to look for pass completion. I want him to knit things together nicely. But I also want him to win a few tackles because he's going to be the main ball winning midfielder. And already I've got a load of options. Midfielder Rocco Wright, he does appeal because he's in our league as well. And after a glowing scout report, his data shows that he's doing well as well, especially from a defensive aspect. Top 6 in terms of interceptions per 90 minutes. He could be very handy. He's also got a really good pass completion ratio. He could be ideal. Another player that's popped up is Fiorentina's Nicolo Fagioli. This may be a riskier signing, but he's good going forward as well. Chances created, 6th in Serie A. That's pretty damn good. In terms of defensive work, his tackles won ratio is good at 89%, and his asking price isn't a lot at all. He could be worth a shot. The last big position I do need to fill is this playmaking winger role. Brandt had a good season with 16 assists. It came out at 0.4 assists per 90 minutes, so that's something we'll look to kind of replicate. So he's going to leave us, and annoyingly he's going to Bayern Munich. So this style of recruitment is actually really helping. It's helping me focus on targets and not get carried away and go for every position that we don't need. So going into next season, I've got some players already on the way in to cover these positions. So we've already sealed the deal for Cucho Hernandez up front, Morton the creative midfielder, and I have got those two signings of Fagioli and Ritz to play as that central midfielder. They're going to be important because they're going to let the other players play a bit of ball, but to be fair, on the ball they're both pretty good as well. So the one signing I've got to get locked in is this playmaking winger role, because Brandt did assist the most last season, so that is a key position. If we get that sorted, I think we've got a chance for a fast spin around here to get that Bundesliga title. That is, of course, as long as no players leave the club, and I'm already fighting off bids for people like Kobel from Newcastle. With my 4 new players arriving, I still could not get the riddle of this wide playmaker. So I might have to look in squad until the January transfer window to see if I can make it work. And to be honest, I'm alright with that, because we don't want to make too many changes, because we did have a decent season despite not winning a trophy. So the team as it stands now, the new players are Hernandez, Ritz and Morton. This position here could be anybody's. Fagioli can jump in because he's class as well, so we're going to rotate a bit there. Now obviously the position that's causing me a bit of stress is the playmaking winger. I've shunted Chukwuemeka out there at the minute. Doesn't want to play there, but I think if he plays there in pre-season, he might enjoy it. He could be the answer. I mean, we'll try him there. He's got everything you need to play there. And last season overall, if you look at his overall performance, he did get 9 assists, 7 goals, limited starts, so he might be the one. The other signings here are all recommended by the recruitment analyst, gone down and dirty into the figures. They're all top 10 in their league in their various data statistics that we were eyeing up. So in theory, we should be a better team. Now the media prediction has us second again, but the odds are a slightly bit better. Last year it was 11-1, this year it's 15-2, so they value us a bit better. Last season's Champions League run to the final, I don't expect us to replicate that, but what I do want is the Bundesliga. That is the ultimate goal. By the time the transfer window slammed shut, I was really happy with the team I'd built. Unfortunately for us, new signing Cucho Hernandez missed the start of pre-season, but Tyler Morton was pulling the creative strings. That's exactly what I wanted from that channel midfielder, and alongside Ritz, that was a great debut for the midfield duo. In the next match, backup Fabio Silva also got injured, so I ended up playing Joe Bellingham up front, and he scored. He scored 2 goals this season. After last season's shocking performance in midfield, maybe he's found his calling as a random striker. And after a full pre-season and a couple of games out wide, Carney Chukwuemeka is now more than capable of playing as that playmaking winger, so we'll see how he does. A couple of annoying defeats this season, but we are in the midst of a fantastic run right now, putting a string of solid results together, including here against Bayern yet again, and Chukwuemeka in that midfield playmaker role supplied that brilliant through ball. 5-0. And just when he started to look really good, wouldn't you just know it, he's now out for 6 blooming months. We had continued to improve the recruitment analyst department. I've now got 5 really good recruitment analysts, which is only going to help. When we get to the halfway point, we are officially in a title race with Bayern. There's 3 points in it. It actually came at the cost of the Champions League. I've kind of sacrificed that to concentrate on the league, and you can see that because we're all the way down in 24th. But in the league, we're flying. That's despite injury after blooming injury. Cucho just can't get going. He's only played 8 times in the Bundesliga. So far, he's missed over 50% of the matches. With Chukwuemeka out, Jan Couto's trying to do the job as a playmaking winger to varied success. And Fabio Silva's probably been the surprise of the season. With Cucho injured, he's played way more, and he's getting 0.7 goals per 90. All of these lot are supporting acts to the main man, Maximilian Bayer up front, 15 goals this season. If he can maintain this form, we might have a chance of the league title. But with the transfer window now open, we can't rest on our laurels. So I'm going to keep these analyst recruitment focuses going just in case we need to top up. Because we've got a better goal scoring record and a better defensive record than Bayern, and we haven't lost since October. To really give us a boost in the second half of the season, I went for Hakan Arne Haraldsson. Now this guy is a recruitment analyst pick. The scouts loved him, and more importantly, his figures backed it up. With the top assist maker in League 1, key passes top, 3rd place for expected assists. In fact, everything about him is absolutely class. So he jumps into that playmaking winger role. I'm pretty optimistic going into the second half of the season. So that signing of Haraldsson proved to be an absolute game changer. He settled in fantastically, supplying assists and getting a few goals as well. 4 goals, 2 assists from that position. His overall performance was great. I would have liked some more assists, but I can't really argue. The front 2 were good. Maximilian Bayer, another 21 goals for him. And after an injury-ravaged season, Cucho Hernandez managed to get 11. We exited the Champions League after a pretty average run of results, but that meant we could fully concentrate on the Bundesliga, and we went on a great run, only losing 1 match in the second half of the season. This included a 3-2 away win at Bayern, and it went down to the wire. The last game of the season, Wolfsburg at home. We needed a win and results to go our way. Bayer smashed it in. and we get the Bundesliga on the last game of the season. An epic title battle, we take it over Bayern on goal difference. But you've got to say we deserve it. Top scorers in the league with 82 and an incredible defensive record, only conceding 21. So you've got to say that went rather well. The new signings proved to be the difference makers, that new central midfield partnership, Hernandez up front, and the January signing of Haraldsson, we finally get a playmaking winger. Question is, was that a one-season wonder? Can we maintain it for another season? And us being the analyst, it's time to have a look at the performance data. Now, for centre-backs, I can't really complain. For example, if you look at the aerial performance in the entire league, you'll see up here, Anton and Schlotterbeck, my two centre-backs, right at the top of the pile. Also doing well in possession, and if you bear in mind that we only conceded 20 goals all season, it's pretty clear that my defence is super solid. No changes needed there. In fact, the only reason we may need to change is if transfers come in. Because both fullbacks are wanted and by big clubs, Svensson for example, the left back, Bayern and Real Madrid, and it's not hard to see why when you look at his overall performance. Creativity wise, we did really well. If you look at the attacking output here, you can see a raft of our players are all involved in the high quality chance creation. New signing Håkan Haraldsson, that playmaker, looks like a perfect signing, but you've also got Tyler Morton there, and there was an increased performance this season from Joe Bellingham. Now, he was used largely off the bench, but he did get a lot of minutes, and if you remember last season's performance, that's a hell of a lot better. Adeyemi out wide, fantastic, but yet again, there's big clubs after him, and he will be a nightmare to replace, because getting 0.6 goals per 90 minutes from that position is not easy. So we're going to go again, we're going to use these analysts to really drill down into what we can do. It might just be that we get better backup players as well with the extra games of the Champions League. So a couple of days from the season finishing, we've got 60 million to spend, the best part of. That might even go up. So it might be time to refresh these recruitment focuses and get my small army of recruitment analysts in conjunction with my scout team on the case. The good thing is the formation is set in stone. You can see we used it 100% of the time, and we have done for the last 2 seasons. So I know what positions to look for. So I decided to take a risk and put bids in for 3 players, all of which have been outstanding in their leagues. So although we're strong at centre-back, I want competition. I've gone for Samson Baido from Lens. Now my guys are great in the air, but Samson Baido is great on the deck because he wins key tackles and possession won per 90 minutes is 8th in the league. For competition up front, I've got a bid in for Romelu, who's at Leipzig. He scored 20 goals overall this season, and crucially, he scored in the Champions League as well. So he's the 3rd top scorer in the Bundesliga. His expected goals is 5th. He's in top 10 for shots on target and shots. And the final bid I've got in is for Lennart Karl, who's a wonder kid over at Bayern, our rivals. He's had some pretty decent game time this season, and I think he'll give us something else because he's 2nd in the entire Bundesliga for dribbles per 90 minutes and dribbles made is in the top 10. He also gets his shots away, and in Bayern's star-studded team, he's even got 3 Player of the Match awards, which puts him in the top 10 in the Bundesliga. Combine that with his general performance, where he gets really high assists per 90 minutes, and the fact he's available for a pretty cheap fee, he could be an absolute bargain. And this is where this transfer style has came in handy, because some of these players, like Lennart Karl and especially Romelu, probably wouldn't be the sort of players I would naturally go for, but with the analysts kind of poking me towards him, I think he'll be a good pickup. With those signings done and dusted, I can kind of kick back over the summer. This style of transfer window is way less hectic. And it's a good job we made those signings, because Tyler Morton is on his way to Manchester United for 56 million. I wanted to keep this kind of realistic, and I think at 56 million, after only signing him 1 year before for 22 million, I think that's the sort of deal that Dortmund would do in real life. So after 1 season, he goes to Manchester United, which makes these 3 moves all the more important, especially Lennart Karl, who with his adaptability could probably do that Tyler Morton role. Not to mention Håkan Haraldsson, so we've got plenty of options. I'm pretty okay with that transfer out. And then the move that I dreaded, Bayern Munich, because they couldn't beat us, they're going to take one of our best players. They've bid 78 million for Adeyemi, triggering his release clause. So in preparation, I've gone for Thiago Thomas to potentially replace him. He's only going to cost 14 million and he's played in the Bundesliga quite a while. And here's another cool thing, the analysts keep the data from last season. You can see there last season in the Bundesliga, he was top 5 for assists, and it's also got his creative data here, 0.4 goals per 90, 0.5 assists per 90. Not as many goals as Adeyemi, but pretty damn good. Despite our best efforts, Thiago Thomas rejects us and goes to Sporting. It means we've brought in a shed load of money this summer, 123 million. We've spent 60, but have we got enough players? We've lost a couple of key players there, but at least the signings we did make give us flexibility in those forward positions. For example, for that Adeyemi spot, We could use Cucho Hernandez out there, Lennart Carl, or even Haraldsson. And there's also a few options already at the club, so I'm going to take the risk and not bring anybody else in. Bayern spent money on Adeyemi and Sesko for Man United, which meant they are still the favourites for the league title. And I've only got one player in the Dream 11. That's Nico Schlotterbeck, and they're after him as well. Please go away. So after a summer that wasn't as chilled out as I thought it was going to be, I was ready for the new season, but I was struck with a load of injuries at the start. So our new look team, looking to get back-to-back Bundesliga and maintain this performance, well, we started pretty well. Up front, Romelu, what a hit he was. And this match was the highlight of his season, scoring 5 times, all 5 in a 5-0 win. You probably noticed his strike partner, Maximilian Bayer, 41 goals this season. The man went to a new level this season, averaging a goal every 90 minutes. Absolutely elite. So he was a mainstay, and replacing Adeyemi was Silva. Fabio Silva jumped out there, did a decent job, 12 goals, 10 assists. And you'll notice the gap up front, that's because I rotated. Romelu, who we brought in thanks to the analysts, well, he finished with 11 goals in 12 starts. Rotating with Cucho Hernandez, 0.7 goals per 90 is fantastic. And speaking of Cucho, the player who got signing of the season last season, well, he went to a new level this season. 17 goals, 0.8 goals per 90 minutes. Those 3 strikers were fantastic. And the team did really well, even going as far as knocking out Liverpool in the Champions League with a clean sheet at Anfield. After losing Tyler Morton, I shifted Haraldsson into central midfield. And he had a great time, 12 assists, 8 goals. He gave me exactly what I needed out of a creative midfielder. It meant that new signing Lennart Carl from Bayern moved to the right-hand side to be the playmaking winger. Liverpool interested after his season, which he got 10 goals and 12 assists. He did great on that right-hand side, there he is, combining a lot of times with the wing-back and the deep line forward. And when you've got a player who can pick a pass like he can, and you've got a striker up front like Big Max, you're onto a winner. So all 3 summer signings contributed massively, as did last season's signing of Rocco Reitz. He started 50 matches this season. It meant we got things very right. The balance was perfect, the signings were really good, and in the deciding match against Leipzig, we smashed it in to prove we weren't a one-season wonder. That dominating 4-goal victory gave us our second Bundesliga back-to-back. Topping the league this time comfortably by 8 points clear of Bayern Munich. So success by using the analysts to bring in our signings. I think the key thing about this is it just gives you a new option on how you're going to recruit. I did it a bit of an extreme way by just ruling out other players that weren't getting analysed. It just gives you another option when you're maybe weighing up who to buy out of 2 players. You can go to the player, look at your scout report, take in the scout report pros and cons, but also how's he doing in his league. This player, for example, Isaacson, looks like a good option. Top 3 in terms of player of the match, goals, average rating, all top 10. Just a good way to level up and decide which players are going to be the right ones for you. And if you're still unsure of a player, so maybe Isaacson, you're still wondering how good is he, you can go to his team, Lazio, there you go, slot in one of the squad views that we've used in the past. So he's a creative player, so I'll drop in creators squad view. And then you've got even more information to check out. So what were his expected assists per 90? And indeed he was top for his team. And you can also see he did pretty damn well in terms of his XG, something that wasn't covered in the analyst report initially, 0.4. So you put all these things together, take a bit more time, don't blast through saves, you could buy the perfect players for your team. It also obviously depends the detail level you've got loaded in. I've got 6 or so leagues loaded in, so someone like Rodrigo De Paul here from Inter Miami, once I scout him, he probably wouldn't show up because it's not a league I've got selected. But I do have the likes of the French league selected, so if I looked at Randall Kolo Muani, who's ended up at Lille, if I fancied signing him and having a closer look to see how he's doing in his competition, they're all there because he's been scouted and my analysts have had a good look at him. As it happens, during this journey, we spent 211 million and we brought in 180 million, so not too bad to get 2 back-to-back Bundesligas. Today I go to one of Europe's non-elite leagues using the analyst reports and Moneyball. So we're going to start in the second division of one of these leagues here, with the ultimate goal of building a squad using Moneyball and analytical reports and potentially getting to the later stage of a European competition. So this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to start unemployed initially, and our mission will take place in Hungary. And I'll start in the second division, so one of these 16 clubs. Now, because I want to use my analytic team and data to change the squad, instead of starting now in July 2025, I'm going to go on holiday to the midway point of the season. And when I come back, there'll be all sorts of data logged in, so we can choose our club and then decide what positions we need to improve. So we are back. It's the 31st of December. I'm in the job centre just having a little look around, see what jobs are actually available. There are 2 jobs available in the Hungarian second division. We've got Budapest Honvéd and Soroksa. Going to the league table, you can see why with Soroksa 15th, so they've still got a chance to survive, and Budapest Honvéd in the top 10. So looking a bit closer at Budapest Honvéd, it seems these guys need to be restored back to the top of Hungarian football. They've got a huge amount of honours, so it's time we took them back to the top. There you see it, 8 Magyar Kupás, 14 league titles. So let's see what we can do with them. So this is their squad at the minute. They're playing a 4-2-3-1, judging by the positions. It's quite a big squad, but if you look at the contract expiring column, well over half of that squad are going to be out of contract in the summer. So there's a bit of squad shaping to do. And when you look at the league table, they are in position 10, but the top 2 get promoted and 24 points currently. Second place is only on 29. So they're in a decent position. What is interesting though is, my God, they don't score many goals, but they don't concede any either. Best defence in the league, but they've only scored 12 times, so that's the problem there. At the start of the season, they were predicted to finish 9th, so they're about there. They've got an all-seater stadium of about 8,500. Training facilities are good youth facilities. They're a pretty solid team. And now this pretty solid team have got themselves a new manager. First thing I've got to do is get some staff in, because although we have our coaching team mostly in place, I've got no performance analysts other than the head performance analysts. I've only got 2 scouts, and I need to get 2 recruitment analysts in, which is vital for the way we're going to approach transfers. Right folks, welcome to Hungary and welcome to Budapest Honvéd. So I'm just in the middle of having a look at the squad, and there's obviously a major problem when it comes to goals. If I put it in goals column, you can see our top scorer is 4, but he's a centre-back. Alex Sasbo is the top scorer at the club with 4 goals in all competitions. It's clear that is the problem with this team. So what we need to work out now is it a problem with the players, or was it simply the former manager's playing style and philosophy that made them play this way? So I have begun my search for the new team. Scouts on the way in, recruitment analysts and performance analysts. But because the team are pretty safe in that top 10, they're not going to get relegated, and the club vision is to remain in the top 10. I've decided to allow this squad the rest of the season. The reason for that is they'll give themselves a bit more time to prove themselves using my tactical philosophy. So that will save us a bit of time and, most importantly, money in this transfer window, because we don't exactly have a lot of it. As far as potential standouts go, well, it's clear from the defensive record our standouts are defenders. Akos Baki has been the best player in terms of average rating this season. He's a 6'4" centre-back. Our one performance data guru says he's been well above everybody else, and you can see why, because he's got the extraordinary result of having 100% tackle-won ratio. Just make some more tackles, my man. It looks like we've got a solid goalkeeper in our man Gergo here, performing much better than the average in terms of standard goalkeeping. And when it comes to advanced goalkeeping, he's saving a load of his shots. So I'm definitely going to keep him. As you can see, he's preventing goals. From an attacking standpoint, Adam Gayurkso leads the way in terms of assists. He looks a solid player, but he is 34, so I'm probably going to let his contract expire unless he has a great second half of the season. So the key thing to decide now is what I want to do tactically. Basically, we're going to have a complete fresh look in terms of players going forward next season, because none are standing out. So I can kind of force my tactic onto these players to see how they cope with it for the rest of the season. Without any prolific goal scorer, we're basically playing a midfielder up front at the minute in Zoltan. That's why I've given him the deep line forward role. I'm hoping the 2 better players on the outside, Gayurkso and Varga, can contribute to some goals. I also think the fullbacks are better than they've been used. One of our better young players is Kevin Kalai. Looks like a decent attacking fullback. And there's a more experienced man on the left hand side in Hang Yai, and he's got decent crossing for this level. So the current form of the club before we take over is pretty much as you would expect for a mid-table team, and crucially, there's hardly any goals going in. They must be a nightmare to watch for the fans. So my plan is to give them at least a couple of months before I even think about setting up recruitment focuses. As we get closer to the end of the season, that's when we'll start building these recruitment focuses ready for next season's squad build. Our first 2 matches, great success. 2-0 wins, home and away. We lost our 3rd match due to a corner, but overall, things have been going really well. Having taken over in January, we've won 5 of our 7 league matches. Although not blowing teams away, we are looking pretty solid. It's seen us rise into the top 3, and we're only 3 points off automatic promotion here. So I'm happy with the style of the 4-3-3. I've gone with a shorter attacking style, so we play a bit more safe, which means the more creative players, they can take a few more risks. And now I know we're looking pretty good and challenging for promotion, I can start this recruitment process. Some of the players have earned new contracts, so that's going to save me a bit of money. But there are still a number of positions I'm going to have to fill. So now with my recruitment squad fully filled out, it was time to get to work. And this is where I'm going to approach things slightly differently. You'll notice here I've selected 7 nations and 10 leagues with a huge database. So these leagues here in Austria, Czech, Hungary, Romania, Serbia, Slovakia and Slovenia, they're going to have full detail for my player searches. That's because I want to keep this kind of realistic. I don't see Budapest Honved, for example, taking players from La Liga. So focusing on them leagues, Austria for example, I'm going to choose an analyst. You'll notice their levels are good and competent. That's about the best I can get at this stage. I'll choose my new scout who's got a bit of knowledge in Austria, Youssef Atez. And then boys are going to focus on my attacking players. Under objectives and stats, the first recruitment focus will be quite ambitious because I'm asking for assists per 90, key passes per 90 and goals per 90. So that's off and running. If that doesn't bring success, I'll probably drop goals per 90 and concentrate on the creativeness. And then create a standalone striker one, looking for purely goals. To make this work, I've extended my scouting budget to Eastern Europe, so that's going to be players in our region. With my first 2 focuses set up, I await to see what results we get. The midfield, for example, already shot up 20 or so targets. These are players that the scout team have recommended. At this stage, I've got the pros and the cons from the scouts, but I'll need to scout them a little bit longer to get the analysts involved and see what they think of them. Meanwhile, I've got another 3 games left of the season after a couple of draws and a win, and because this league is so tight, we've actually moved into 2nd place, which is automatic promotion, just ahead of 3rd place by 1 point. Now we don't have a lot of money, so if we can't get the players in, this youth intake will help. So I was pleasantly surprised by the way the team adopted to this shorter, more patient style. Guys at the back are told just to pass it, keep it simple, find the guys who are a bit more expressive and creative and let them do the damage. It also seems like using the deep line forward because we don't have an out-and-out striker has worked really well. Simon is the deep line forward in this team and he gives 2 assists which were basically identical in this match to one of the wide players. And that topped off our fantastic run in the second half of the season, gaining us promotion to the top division. Probably our best performance since taking over, and definitely ahead of schedule. We get promoted with a game left. We could even win the league here. The big turnaround has been the amount of goals we've scored. That's shot up to 35. Yes, we've conceded a few as well, but I thought it was worth the gamble. And that has had a great knock-on effect because the board have given us 2 million for next season, which will of course affect our recruitment focuses, all of which are starting to bring up some decent looking results. In the final game of the season, despite our very best efforts, look at that. We draw the game 1-1 after a 96th minute equaliser. And that equaliser cost us the blooming title. We would have took the title off Budapest if it wasn't for that goal. Still, promotion in our first season after half a season, man, I'm delighted with that. And we're into the top division. So now we're promoted, I need to decide who deserves a contract. I have dished a few out, as you can see there. The goalkeeper's got a new one. A few of the defenders have as well. Some of the forward players, though, I've held back on. Such as Kevin Varga, great recent form, but he's 30 and you've got to think we're jumping up to the next level. I might have found myself a decent deep line forward though in Simon. Benedict there, he's only 20, I brought him into the team, he's done well, scored 8 times in 15 matches. And I wasn't really looking for a goal scorer in that position, but he's done really well with 0.6 goals per 90. I would have liked some more creativity in terms of key passes and assists, but luckily for him he can move out to the right hand side as well, so he's definitely got a future at the club. And despite the team's heroics, there will be a bit of a turnover. Remember, we're chasing European football, so I'm going to look for basically a brand new midfield and strike force. Okay, before we get into the transfers, I want to get a little bit into the analysts and some confusion that's been going around from the last video. So sometimes when you look at your recruitment focuses and you pick out a player, so let's pick out Borko Duronic. Now he's got an A+ scouting report. All looks good so far. But when you click on it, you notice you've got your scout pros and cons. But for whatever reason, it says this: the analysis team will generate a report while the player is being scouted. And sometimes they just don't bring up that report. So we're not getting this, the player analysis report, in relation to the division they're playing in. Now, honestly, I'm not sure why this is. If anybody does know why, please let me know. But at the minute, it just seems kind of random when you get an analyst report and when you don't, even though you've scouted the player with extensive knowledge. But there is ways to work around it, and I've got 3 different ways that I use the analyst reports to recruit my players. I'm going to go through them now with players I'm looking at to improve this squad for next season. So the first way is to use the scout reports in conjunction with your analyst reports, and I was lucky enough that these 2 players here did hit that remit. So this is Alexandru Pante. He's an A+ scout report, as you can see. Now, on the basis of things, he looks like a pretty decent fullback, but if you look at his average rating, it's nothing to shout about, is it? Now, he's playing in the top division. He does have 6 caps for Romania, but this is where the analyst report really makes him shine. You can see their current ability, potential ability, he looks like a great player. However, this is where it stands out when we go to analyst. You can see he's an ideal defensive fullback. His pressures attempted is first in the first division. He covers the most distance, passes completed. His pressures completed is top 3. Progressive passes, tackles attempted, the list goes on and on. He is a superb defensive fullback. And you wouldn't have thought that if you just judged him purely on his attributes and his average rating. And like I say, he did come from one of the recruitment focuses there. So on that occasion, it worked. It also worked for the next signing, Mark Kovrasketi. So I'm looking to improve my wide players. And again, it wasn't a massive season for him. 4 goals, 27 appearances. His attributes are, again, just okay. But again, he's an A+ scout recommendation, so he does deserve another look. And then when I went to his player analysis, I can see that he is indeed top 10 for key passes. So although he didn't contribute any assists, he is high on the key pass metric. And considering he's out of contract and going to be a free transfer, he looks like a great pickup. But like we've mentioned, it doesn't always work like that. We've got an A+ recommendation here for a midfielder. Look to his report, and there's no analysis on him, so we can't rely on that all the time. So that brings me to my second way of doing things. So you've got a player who pops up, he's got an A+ scout recommendation. You're interested, you think, right, his attributes look good, he's had a solid season, how does he stack up in that league? And you get with that. Then what you do is you go back to his profile, select his club, go to their squad, and then you can see their full squad. So you're going to simply change your squad view. Now he's a defensive midfielder, so I'm just going to drop it into one of the squad views for defend data. Find your man, there he is. Now I can have a little look at him and see what he's been excelling at. I can see he's got 90% pass completion rate, for example, decent amount of pressures, and crucially, for a defensive midfielder, he wins the ball back at 16.3 per match. Then I'll compare it to my squad. So I'll go back to my squad. I'll have that same squad view locked in. I'll go to the possession 1 column over here, put it in order, and I can see my best performers are at 15.3, but they are the centre backs. So what about my midfielders? And the best midfielder I've got is winning the ball back at 12 per match. So he's way ahead of that and could be a good pickup. So that's the complicated way to do things. It takes a little bit longer, but if you don't mind taking your time to build your squad, it's not a bad technique. Now this next technique is, I think, the best one. In this one, we specifically target players. So let's take the leagues I've got loaded up. So I've selected Serbia. I'm going to go to their main league, the Superliga, and I'm going to go down to stats down here and players. Now I can see the players that are excelling in most of the key metrics. How about key passes? You can see here, Nemanja Milovic. There is Nemanja. He looks like a good player. He's in one of my key positions that I need in midfield. And as you can see, there is no scout report on him yet. And this, believe it or not, is a good thing. When you don't have a scout report, when you press scout player, you can instantly see that he's getting scouted by your club, and crucially, he's also getting analysed. And literally just a few days later, he has been fully scouted. Now we can see his scout report of excellent. I've got all his pros and cons, but crucially, I've also now got the analyst data in relation to his league. We knew he was a good key passer, indeed first in the league, but other metrics have spotted as well. Expected assists is up there in the top 11, and he's a workhorse by covering loads of distance, so he looks like a really good central midfielder. So I do enjoy this technique because you can look at the standout players from the league. So Lincoln here, top scorer. There he is, top scorer in the league, 13 in 30. Is he just about goals though? So we go to scout player. Now he's getting scouted and he's getting analysed. A few days later, the scout report comes in. He's an A+ recommendation, which is always a good start. And when we go to the analyst report, not only is he top scorer in the league, which we knew, but he's second in terms of shots on target, second overall for overall shots. Key passes is actually up there in 20th. Looks like a great player. Going to Romania now, checking out their top division. We'll go to player stats there, and as you can see, we've got a raft of players here. We'll check out Diego Ramalho, who's top of assists with 12 this season. Again, another solid player, but no scout report. But on this occasion, when the scout report comes back, although he's an A recommended signing from the scout, the analyst judges him just as a B+, because although he excels in assists and expected assists, it kind of drops off after that. So not everyone's going to be a home run. Another player here, Tobias Christiansen, A+ scout recommendation. Analyst says A. Assists, top 3. Expected assists, key passes, looks a good player. But on this occasion, he's got no transfer interest. So then slap him on your shortlist, see how he does for the following season, and then see if he changes his mind. And that's what I've done with most of these players on the shortlist. They wouldn't join us this season, but maybe next season. So when you're doing this type of save, the analytical style, the Moneyball style, there are different ways to get around it if you're not quite getting the reports you want. And like I say, it doesn't always work. You can find some great players, but they simply will not be interested. I think the key thing about this transfer style is it's not the fastest way. You're going to take your time to do it, but it is worth it once you get those right players. Using those techniques, I was able to bring in 9 players at a total cost of 700,000. Added to that was 2 young players, Adam Samorjai, promoted from the youth team, and 19-year-old Bence Kovacs. The new front three included Vukasin Bogdanovic, who's an ideal drop-off striker. On loan, Igor Putsev, and on the left-hand side, Jason Papea. Last season in Romania's top division, he was one of the most creative players, so a great addition, especially on a free transfer. The only goal for the season is to survive. I've got a little eye on mid-table, especially with the media prediction putting us in at 9th position. When the season got going, my new squad was ready. With the squad settled, I was looking forward to a decent season. We played well in our first game, getting an away win. We were looking super solid, and we made it 2 wins out of 2 with this beauty from Milojevic in our first home match. And remember why we signed Pantea. He was the best defensive fullback in Romania last season, and it looks like he's carrying that over to our league this season. And the squad continued to adapt to our style of football. Our drop-off striker, now Bogdanovic, dropping off, feeding the winger, Kovrasketi. It was a really impressive start to the season, helped by the new signings like Jason Papeo. Remember, we need our wide players to score, and he started pretty well. And on the other side, Yegor Prutsev, who's playing as an out-and-out winger. 4 assists already. If he can maintain this type of form till the end of the season, who knows where we could finish. There was disappointment in the cup as we got knocked out on penalties, but in the league we looked like one of the most solid teams in the league, racking up the clean sheets. This included a win against the most dominant team in Hungary, Ferencváros, as the new players that we brought in combined. It was a pretty dominating display over the best team in the country, and going into the new year, we'd shocked the league by being top of the table. We've done it with the best defensive record in the league, having only conceded 13 times. When you're playing this style of 4-3-3 with no absolute goal-scoring striker, it's important you get goals shared around, and that's what we've been doing. Milojevic, the player we brought in first on that great analyst report, he's got 7 goals this season. And coming in with 6 goals and 5 assists was Jason Papeo. 0.4 goals, 0.3 assists, and a threat every time we go forward. And I thought he'd be a good drop-off striker. Bogdanovic has done just that with 7 goals, 4 assists. And the team have bought in with superb team chemistry. The youngsters Kovac and Samorjai in midfield are doing great. And we start every match with that balanced mentality. Only going up to positive if I feel like we're dominating and we need a goal. If we keep this up, we might even get into Europe this season. So that recruitment budget might come in handy. So it may be time to add to this massive shortlist I've got. Through the second half of the season, things had started well, including getting another win against Ferencváros, which gave us qualification for Europe. Our goal has been hit. At that point, we were definitely in the title hunt, but we have been working with a super small squad of just 23, and late in the season, we started to run out of gas a little bit, so that's something I need to think about for next season, to bulk the squad up. Still, I thought a second place finish would be way above our expectations, but something strange happened in the last few games of the season. We'd qualified for the Conference League, and after this draw against Ferencváros, and then this final day victory, I thought we'd solidified second place and I would be really happy. But our title rivals, Debreceni, after a great run where they took over the lead, well, they lost their last 2 league matches, which meant the impossible had indeed happened. We'd won the championship in our first season back in the big time. And I have no idea how, because despite being way behind on goal difference, a win on our final game of the season shoved us up to top to win our first league title since 2016. So my question is, how the hell has this happened? Is it goals scored? Now look, I'm delighted, but I need to know how we've won this league. So I knew it couldn't be goal difference, and I knew it couldn't be the head-to-head because they've had the better of us. It actually comes down to who won the most matches. And if you look at the league table, we won 1 more match, so despite losing 2 more, because they got more draws and we won an extra match, we get the championship. And that is huge because that's our first league title in 10 years. And during that time, there's been one dominant force in Hungary and we've taken it back. So that is a massive bonus. Now, obviously, the tactic is obviously good. It's done some good work there, but the incoming players have all had a massive effect. The creativity of the front three was huge. And remember, when you're playing a striker who doesn't stay up there all the time, you need to find goals from all over the place. That's not to say he didn't do his job, because Bogdanovic ends up the top scorer in the league with 17 and 33, but he also got 8 assists. Either side of him, you've got Papeu and Prutsev. Prutsev broke our assist record with 10 assists this season from the right hand side. And because he's performed so well from an attacking standpoint, I'm going to have to trigger the clause in his contract, which luckily for me is a decent fee of 400,000, so he's definitely coming in next season. On the other side, Papayou, who we brought thanks to his great performance last season, he's kind of repeated that for me with 11 goals and 8 assists. 0.4 goals, 0.3 assists, and a constant threat. He's been absolutely ideal. So the good news is the recruitment methods are working. They're definitely working. Now I'm going to have to improve the squad. Despite winning the league, we're going to have more games next season in European competition. And I'm just looking at the squad and there is some areas we can improve. We saw the positives with the 3 creative players and there are positives elsewhere in the pitch as well. So goalkeeper Gego Rax there. He's 31. He's kept 14 clean sheets in the league this season. When you look at his attributes, they're nothing to shout about. But when you go to advanced goalkeeping, it just shows how well he's been doing because there he is. On the flip side, one of my centre-backs, Baki, he was our top performer when I took over, if you remember, last season. Now, on the face of things, if you judged him on his average rating, you'd say, great, keep him for another season. But if I look a bit closer, I can see that he's not winning a great amount of headers, only 57% of his headers. And probably more worryingly is the tackling and winning the ball back. He's only 56% in tackles, which you can kind of forgive if he's making clearances and blocks, and he's not really. He's had a decent season. He's pretty safe on the ball, but I just think he's more suited to be a squad player next season, so we can upgrade. But that is really chasing excellence, because he's been pretty decent, and if I didn't have Europe, I would stick with him for another season. To assist my recruitment, I'm really going to focus on the other leagues around us and the ones I've got loaded in, and to help that out, I brought in some new scouts. So if you can get scouts that have got knowledge of the areas you're scouting, it's going to help out big time. Tom Jansen's here, has great knowledge of Serbia and Slovakia. Andrei, what a name that is. He's going to focus on Romania and there's some great players there. With them scouts in place, I've identified the 2 main positions I want to fill. One of them's quite harsh because youngster Benz Kovacs had a good season last season, 6 assists in 32 matches, but I just think we might be able to upgrade. Here's another little tip for you. When you've got a player you're not sure about whether you want to replace them, like Kovacs, he had a good season, but you think this player might be a better option. On the face of it, he does look better. Good attributes, good season statistics. I haven't scouted him yet, but you can go up to the comparison tool up here. Once you click that, select the player that you're unsure about replacing. So I'm going to select Benz Kovac. Now if we go over to statistics, they do show the statistics of that player. Not all of them, but some pretty key ones. Now I can check out if he is indeed going to be an upgrade. And as you can see, although I did think initially he might be a good replacement, my player has actually got the better of him in nearly every metric. So if I was using Kovacs as an attacking midfielder, I'd probably stick with him because as you can see, his key passes per 90 minutes are better. His shots on target ratio is better, covers slightly more distance. However, if I was thinking of bringing in a more defensive player in that role, this guy would probably have the edge because his tackles 1 per 90 minutes and his tackle completion ratio is far better. Of course, if you're still unsure about that, you can go and scout the player and then see what your scout and analyst will say about him after that. It may be that he'll come in anyway and be a good backup, but it just gives you a good guide on whether or not he will actually be an upgrade or is it a different type of player you're looking for. So I'm going to go away in the off-season now and try and improve this squad where we can. The players I've got selected there, including the bench players, will have a future at the club. So you can see I'm discarding about 10 players there. So I've got quite a bit of work to do. So with the added fixtures of Europe, I wanted a far stronger squad. I had 1.1 million to spend and I spent 400,000 of that on last season's on-loan winger, Prutsev. There's no way I'll find a better winger than that with the assists, the dribbles and the key passes. I'd created my shortlist using a combination of scout recommendations and targeted scouting in various different leagues. And I got all those scout recommendations back because I sent my scouts to see a ton of players. Check that out. And the first player that jumped out was Enric. I'm going to call him Ostrich. Now, if you remember, he's the player that I compared to our current midfielder, Kovac. And in comparison, they were super close. So I sent my scout to get a full report on him. And when the results came in, he looked like a great player. Passes completed, he was top 5 in the league. Progressive passes, so getting that ball moving, 6th. He was good in terms of key passes, top 10 in terms of assists, and importantly, in the defensive side of the game, he was fantastic. He could be useful in those European matches and a 200,000 deal was done. Next to join was Barnabas Nagy. He was playing in Slovenia on loan from Giants Ferencváros in Hungary, and you can see he's a very good defensive fullback with clearances, pressures completed. But he's also looking pretty good going forward as well. 12th in the league with open play key passes from fullback. The next big target was to get that quality centre back we're looking for, someone who's aerially dominant. I landed on 2 players. The first was David Guganig from Austrian Bundesliga. He's available on a free transfer and I found him because he was first in the entire league in terms of key headers. And he also wins the ball back at a good rate, 6th in the league for possession won. So I went for 2 centre-backs, and the next one is proof to not just get obsessed with attributes and with average ratings, because this player, Lazar Zaknic, in terms of average rating, it's not a massive standout, 6.77 in the Slovenian league in a team that got relegated. And when you look at his attributes, it's highly average, right? But the scout report was good, and I did want 2 centre-backs to provide cover. And when I went to his analyst report, you can see why I've gone for him. Remember, I was looking for an aerial dominant defender. Headers won, first. Key headers, second. He also brings in interceptions with second. Blocks, top 5. Clearances, top 5. Possession won, top 10. All that for hopefully 85,000. Next up, the search was on for a wide player. I love my wide players, they're great, but we've got extra games this season. So I focused in again on Slovakia. I'm getting some good results from that league. Went to the player stats, and in the key passes, I found myself a player in Luka Silgadze. Once the scout report was done, it came back glowing with an A+ recommendation from the scout team. It done okay in the league this season, nothing massive, 2 goals, 3 assists. But as I look closer into the player analysis, we found ourselves a player with good key passes, who's hard working and with great chance creation. Top of key passes, pressures attempted 6th, so he works really hard. Expected assists, top 7. Chance creation, top 10. And the deal was done for just 180,000. So in total, for the off-season, to improve this squad, I brought in 6 players. You can see the 4 there, Prutsev, Nagai, Guganig and Zaknic, and then there was 2 at the back end of last season, Lucas Elgadzi and the midfielder Enric Ostrich. Now it means my squad isn't massive, it's a decent size but quite manageable, quite happy with it, and it's definitely better than last season. Now when you send out the amount of scouts that I did, you will miss out on some players, but they are all on this shortlist, so hopefully if they have another good season, we can make a move if we become more appealing. Players like Lincoln, who we've missed out on for the 3rd straight season, yet again he was the best striker in his league, so that's 2 seasons in a row he's done that. We really need to find a way to get him in at some point. But we have improved, and the media prediction does show that. They think we're somewhere around top 7 at 33-1. They got it wrong last season, and this season, to be fair, we do have those extra European fixtures. And they started with a second qualifying match against Olimpia Ljubljana. With my main striker Bogdanovic down with an injury, I took a risk and I promoted 16-year-old youth player Alberto Sacristian to be my new backup striker. And he looks like he could be something special, as he scores in both legs as we progress to the next playoff stage. So I'm really enjoying this recruitment style. The results are showing, all's going really well, but there is one problem, and you can probably see it at left back. So the new player Barnabas Nagy is currently in at left back. He's a good player, but he was brought in as a backup. He's starting because one of our players has been sold. Alexandru Pantea, the outstanding defensive fullback, has been snapped up by Saudi and he's gone to Al Ittihad. Sold for 800,000 after they triggered his clause. It's a huge profit after 1 season, but it's a massive blow. I want to keep this realistic though, so I'm not going to replace him directly with another transfer in. I've got no data to really look at anyone for this season. If I do need to bring someone in, I'll look to the under-19s, which is kind of what I think this club would do in real life. There's a player there called Zolt Laza who can do a decent job. If you look at his physicals, he should be a decent little player, so he's going to be my new backup. So the squad is set for what will be an interesting season because we are in Europe as well, so it's going to be a bit tricky. I've got a nice mixture of the new recruitment-based players and quite a few of the youngsters are in there now as well. And the league campaign has started well, so I'm looking forward to the season. It's going to be an interesting one. So as expected, the league campaign was a bit tougher with all the extra matches. I was always going to prioritise the Conference League, but injuries to some key players really hurt us. I ended up losing key midfielder Nemanja Milovic for months and months. Same thing for Lucas Elgadzi, who'd started well with 8 goals, but again, he's out for most of the season. Despite this, I did my best with the limited squad we had, and a final day victory on my birthday meant we finished in the top 3 qualifying for Europe once again. We only lost 8 matches all season, we were just a bit inconsistent despite a great late run. But after winning the league last season, our only goal this season was a deep run in Europe. This is how it went. It started with a tough game against Shakhtar in the qualifiers, and we did really well, 2-0 up in the first leg. Another goal for our young striker as he continued to impress. After a good performance, the game ended 2-1. In the second leg, it went to extra time as Shakhtar beat us 1-0 in the 90 minutes. And they just had too much for us in extra time, cruelly knocking us out. Despite that disappointment, that meant we dropped into the Europa League. And again, we did the business at home, beating the more fancied opposition 1-0 thanks to Bogdanovic. So we took that league to Copenhagen. This would get us into the league stage if we could see it through. But yet again it was heartbreak, and even worse this time as 2 injury time goals in the 94th and 96th minute knocked us out of the Europa League. All was not lost because that led us to the Conference League instead for our 3rd shot at Europe. And this one was definitely our best chance at glory with our tiny team. It put us straight into the league stage and we started fantastically, gaining a 4-0 win. Having got through that, we got through our first knockout round in the playoffs 2-1. And yet another fantastic home performance got us through the first leg 3-0 in the last 16. Göztepe of Turkey were our opponents, and in the second leg, despite losing 2-1, that sent us to the quarter-finals. We've done it, we've reached the latter stages of European competition. This is where it got tough though, because we got drawn against Giants Fenerbahce, and they became the latest team to fall victim to us at home as we got a stunning 2-0 victory. Later on, it could have been 3. We were so close to making it 3-0. And in the second leg, we were under pressure throughout. 2-0 after full time, meaning extra time. That was a hammer blow, and Fenerbahce took over in extra time, knocking us out, but what a run we had. Super happy with the team, we kept the same tactic throughout, and I was really happy to bring in some youngsters throughout the journey. My defensive midfielder, Adam Samoji, turned into a really good player. And this season, I introduced 16-year-old Kasaba Nemeth. He played a chunk of matches with 7 assists in 22 games, and he was actually my most creative midfielder at 0.4 per 90 minutes. Near the end of the season, I brought in young left wing back Zsolt Laza with his electric pace, and Bogdanovic was once again exceptional with 27 goals this season. Our big problem this season was we just simply had too many matches for the size and quality of the squad, but we gave it a hell of a go. But using the data and the Moneyball technique, we achieved what we wanted to, so I'm pretty happy. The Analyst returns, but this time he's got a bit of a challenge because we're only going to sign players from country's 2nd tier. So maybe I'll find out if players that excel at lower leagues can cut it at the elite level. So once again I've started unemployed as I decide which club to take over. I do have a specific style of club I want, one that's struggling in the top division this season. Using an updated database I can see clubs that look likely to get relegated, I just need to decide where to go. So this database I'm using gives me all the real results and fixtures up till the 11th of May, so just a couple of days ago at time of recording. So I'm going to go on holiday till the midpoint of the following season, so December the 31st, 2026. Then I can decide whether to take one of the relegated clubs and get them back to the Elite League, or maybe take over a struggling, forgotten giant. So if you're new to this style of save, what we do is we take the scout reports and the recruitment analyst reports and decide what players are excelling in their leagues, and that's the type of player we're going to sign. So what club we're going to go for? Last season, relegated from the Bundesliga, we've got Wolfsburg, St. Paul and Heidenheim. La Liga last season relegated was Levante, Alaves and Real Oviedo. Down from Serie A last season, we've got Pisa, Hellas Verona and Lecce. In League 1, down went Metz, Nantes and Auxerre. But the country we're going to land on is Portugal. Down went AVS, Tondela, Casapaya. Casapaya looked to be bouncing back straight away. We're going to be taking over Tondela. The main reason for choosing them was I wanted a bit of an underdog. And that's what they are. The stadium holds just 5,000. They have managed to win the league we're currently in twice in 2015 and 2025. But recently they've been a bit of a yo-yo team, up and down, but they did get to a cup final in 2022. So we're going to try our very best to get them at that sort of level and maybe even take down that trophy. And with the club sitting in the top 5, they're in a decent position to maybe have a sneaky go at promotion this season. And using our recruitment methods, once we get back to the top league, we're going to do our best to try and break up this big three. So our Tondela journey starts now. After a quick look at the squad, I was delighted to see one player in particular, my boy Hugo Felix, who I had a great time with at Salgueiros in FM24. So he appears to have found himself at Tondela, having been released by Benfica. I mean, attribute-wise, he looks fantastic. His season stats so far, 3 goals and 3 assists. But because I'm new to the club and my staff team haven't settled in yet, I can't really judge him on his performance data just yet. And that goes for the entire squad, so I'm not going to make any transfers until the summer. This might be risky because we are in the promotion shake-up. We're about 6 points behind automatic, but I think they deserve a chance, and a chance in whatever tactic setup I'm going to do. Looking at the squad from a position standpoint, it looks like most positions are pretty well covered, although it's pretty clear there's no prolific goal scorer, because our top goal scorer only has 4 goals. I mean, on the face of things, to go alongside Hugo Felix, there seems to be a decent clutch of players that should be pretty damn good. But I can't judge them yet until we start playing a few matches. Okay folks, welcome to Tondela. I love managing in Portugal, so this should be a good one. So the first thing I did when I got here was I sorted the staff out. So coaching wise, I got myself 2 performance analysts in, and the pretty good ones as well, analysing data for this level, Darren Harrison and Tomas Amaral, and he's really good. When it came to the recruitment team, I have got myself 2 analysts in. I'm just still looking for a scout as well. I could do with more scouts, so I will ask the board later on. And what was next was to get my tactics sorted. Now, when I looked at the squad, I had a decent squad in terms of position cover, but not really in terms of player quality. So at the minute, we're lined up in a 4-4-1-1. The players you see there are the guaranteed starters. The strength definitely comes out wide. Ronnie Lopez is a player I actually used in the past, and he's a pretty good player who can play as an inverted winger. So I'm going to go double inverted winger with the wing backs going round them. That's the idea anyway, so we can kind of flood the central area. Should all go through Hugo Felix. Top scorer this season, despite the former manager hardly playing him, is Makan Aiko. He can play up front or wide. So I'm going to play him as an inverted winger. So I'm really happy with those 2 and Felix. And up front we've got a good striker who's on loan from Braga in Sami Merheg. So we need to take advantage of him while we've got him. So all the other places will be up for grabs. This is what this second half of the season is about. And our first match was pretty much straight away. It was against Braga's B team, and Bastos down the left, well, he looks a pretty good wing back. A big 3-0 win to start, helped by a red card, but it's promising. So till the end of the season, all these boys here have their chance to impress. There's a few down here who've actually got contract expiry on the way, so they really need to impress. Once we get the season done, we'll then look to see what we can do in terms of players for next season and start scouting leagues below us. I mean, I say below us, I need to get us promoted first, and to be fair, after a few more matches, we are looking good. And some of the players are really rising to the challenge to claim a starting spot. As you saw, Luis Bastos has been incredible. His form for the last 5 games is outrageous. He's one of those players that on the face of things, attribute-wise, he doesn't look all that. However, since coming into the team under me, he's got 4 assists, and as an attacking wing-back, he has been terrific. 0.5 assists per 90, he's got key passes going on, he's got dribbles, and in this setup where we're asking our wingers to cut inside, he needs to act like a winger, and he's doing a great job. In terms of the rest of the season, we started really well. However, we did have a little blip at the most crucial time. But we did manage to pick ourselves up. A little tweak in the formation led to some better results, and we got ourselves promoted back into the top division. Despite that, I'm not getting carried away because, as you can see, we finished position 5 and still got promoted, largely thanks to the fact that Porto's B team and Benfica's B team, well, they can't get promoted. We got promoted the hardest way possible, in the playoffs. And the playoff setup in Portugal means you have to face the team from the top division, and we just about got over the line after a great first leg win. And the thing that complicated our run-in was our progress in the Taça de Portugal. We actually got to the semi-final. So all the way to the semi-finals, we played Benfica and we gave them a good match, 6-3 we ended up losing. But the most important thing is we did get ourselves promoted. Now I can get going with our recruitment and looking at lower leagues to find the ideal players. So we've got ourselves promoted, and now it's time to improve this squad with recruitment, and I'm going to do it my favourite way. So the way I'm going to do it is with targeted scouting. I did a big section on this in the last video. Check that out if you want a bit more of an oversight. But quickly, it's this. I'm going to go to player stats in a selected league. So maybe you're looking for someone to be creative, an assist maker. I go to the top assist per 90 minutes in that selected league. Top man in this league is Nathaniel Teo. So he's probably a winger, although he can obviously play wing back as well. 11 assists this season, pretty damn good player. So I'll just go to scout player, and then I've got my scout having a look at him and the analyst. In a few days time, I'll get all that feedback back. And just a few days later, the report was indeed in. And funnily enough, my scout didn't really think he was a great signing, just a B. And now I'm able to see just how good he is. As you can see, we knew he was good at assists. As we go further down, this is backed up by chances created, open play key passes. For me, at a transfer value of 1.7 to 3.4 is a bit unrealistic, but that's the process we're going to use for most signings this season. I will of course keep an eye on the recommended players as well. Now unexplainably, this is a bit hit and miss in terms of scouting reports, because we get the full scout report, but some occasions we don't always get the analyst report. But when we do, we have to take advantage of it and see if any players will hit our remit. Funnily enough, this player recommended might just do that. I've got a big summer ahead because I'm also not too convinced by the tactic I used to get promoted. We took over when they were 5th and we finished 5th. We weren't blowing teams away, so I might tweak this a bit. I have got another one lined up just in case I want to try something a bit different. But you will notice I've only got 2 gaps in the team because those are the 2 positions I definitely want to fill because the others perform pretty damn well. For example, Brian Medina is an exceptional centre-back. Not only is he good in terms of his attributes, his average rating's good, but when it comes to his other data, he absolutely excels. Look at this for winning the ball back. 16 possession won per match and he hardly gives it away. And in the air, he's also fantastic in the higher bunch of players in terms of lots of headers and strong heading. He adds that a load of blocks. He's just a really good all-round defender. At left back we saw how good Bastos was, and in Hugo Felix I think I've already got my creative midfielder. His performance was much better, and if you look across all his metrics, he's either performing much better or better than all players in his position. So he's my main creative player and he's going to stay that way for the next season. So the base of the team is actually quite good, and I do want to give them a chance at the higher level and not get too many players in season 1. And of course the other factor is the budget. We are not a rich club. Even with next year's budget locked in, we've only got 450,000 to spend. So when it comes to recruitment this off-season, rather than dive over to England, France, Germany, Italy, etc., I'm going to stay closer to home and I'm going to focus on players from the league we've just been in. And that's what I've done with my first signing this summer, and it's a budget signing as well. Crosses completed per 90 minutes, which is kind of vital when we're asking our fullbacks to push on. This is Rodrigo Diaz, who's playing for Sporting's B team. He's a 21-year-old, can play either fullback position. As you can see, attributes aren't massively stand out, nor is his average rating. However, when the scout report came back, it wasn't a recommendation, and the asking price is well below market value, which obviously in our situation is very appealing. And when the analyst had a look, he recommended an A+ rating. That's because Rodrigo Diaz completed the most crosses per 90 minutes in the entire league. Not only that, but he was in the top 5 for key passes. With that level of high intensity sprints and distance covered, he's also a really hard working player. Putting that all together, for 30,000, that was an absolute no-brainer. So this pre-season, that's the sort of move I'm going to make. I'm going to concentrate on the Portuguese second division, just get a couple of players in. I don't need that many. If you look here down the starters list, I need 2 starters and I need to fill my bench up. That's about it really. So using the philosophy of not getting too many players in and with no money to spend, I got 1 loan in straight away. The signing was this man who sits top of the goal scoring charts in the second division in Portugal. Francisco Sousa Silva, 19 goals in 27 matches. I also sent my scouts out to look at upcoming out of contract players that performed well, and this has helped me get some players in. Felipe Cruz, for example, not massively rated by my scouts, but a closer look and at the analyst report shows that in the league this season, he was first in terms of key passes. Players like him who will be out of contract are a great budget option for us. It's a similar story for Thiago Leite, who could be a good backup forward. 12 goals this season in the league, again not really rated by the scouts. The analysts, however, can see deeper into it and give him an A+ rating. 4th in the league in terms of goals, he won plenty of headers, plenty of shots on target, good backup striker. Now my centre backs are really strong, but I did need some backups for them, and that's where Jean-Pierre Reiner comes in from Vizela. He was one of the top performing defenders in the league, 1st place for blocks, 6th place for key tackles. And again, he's out of contract, so he's going to be the perfect squad player. With the signing of Rodrigo Diaz already in, those 5 players I think are enough for this season. But I did still have that gap on the left hand side of midfield. And after managing to sell a couple of fringe players, I had my eyes on the top dribble maker in the league last season, Danilo De Rossi. So he's great on the ball, but he combines that with searing pace. And for an out-and-out winger, with dribbles per 90 minutes of 8 per match, top of the table, 203 dribbles throughout the entire campaign, and he even added some key passes in. I might have to pay in instalments because he's a big fee, but for 20 years old, I think he's great for the future. And with that, the business was done. The squad was bulked out by adding a 15-year-old and 16-year-old from the youth team to gain experience. And in our first season back in the top flight, I was pleasantly surprised by the media predictions, looking like we're going to finish in the top half. Trying out the new tactic in pre-season, signs were looking good. We're building this team around Hugo Felix, and we went 100% in pre-season. And in our first league match, the change to the tactic looked to be the right move, as the inverted wing-back slotted in alongside the defensive midfielder, making us look that little bit more solid and just allowing the attacking players to get on with it. At the midway point of the season, we were right where the predictions had us. 10th position, won 7, lost 7. Don't get me wrong, there were some heavy beatings along the way to the big teams like Sporting and Braga. But in games of teams of our type of level, we looked really good. The loan signing of Francisco Sousa Silva proved to be vital as he banged in 17 goals for the season. And 17 goals at 0.5 goals per match was pretty damn good for a newly promoted side. The star man was definitely Hugo Felix, who actually trumped his last season performance with 13 assists and 11 goals. Moving up a level hasn't stopped him as he finishes top of key passes in the entire league. It was overall a stunning performance and he's going to be vital for our future. It led to a really special first season for us back in the top flight, finishing in the top 7, just missing out on the Conference League. When you consider this is basically the second level team, we've done really well. With limited transfers, it's promising for the future. Most of the time that was the team. That inverted wingback worked a treat with Conceição pulling the strings. To back up Felix and the striker was the two wingers. Aiko was exceptional last season and he did give us 9 assists this season, breaking into the top 20 in terms of assists per 90 and joint top for dribbles made overall in the entire league. A bit lower down was new signing Dejassi. After taking a while to settle in, he started to find his form, but the big plus point this season was definitely the defenders. I knew Brian Medina was a good player, but his defensive work this season was top tier. He's actually got even better in the air this season at the higher level, but he tops the league in terms of interceptions made, joined by his partner Christian Marquez in 3rd place, and they both excelled in possession won, with Medina finishing top of the table with Marquez in the top 10. And we signed Diaz on the basis he was a hard-working player. And defensively this season he was exceptional, as he finishes top of pressures completed in the league by a long way. A good season from him, but he didn't contribute any assists, so I'm thinking maybe a new role for him next season, possibly mimicking what we're doing with Conceição on the right. So that was quite the season. We do have a bit of work to do in the pre-season for next season though, because despite not spending much, our transfer budget lined up for next season is actually worse than we've just had. So the big thing for next season we're going to have to address is our main man up front is going back to Benfica. So he's technically a Benfica player, but I signed him on the basis of his Division 2 performance, but this season we just can't afford him. Look at his value thanks to the season he's had with us. So that's 16 league goals we're going to have to replace at 0.5 goals per match. Very tricky. When it comes to the tactic, I'm 100% keeping it, so I need to find myself a new target forward, but the only change I'm going to make is changing Diaz here to an inverted wing back to go alongside Conceição. So we'll test double inverted wing backs in pre-season. My thinking is, and the visualizer does back this up, that when we attack, we should have something of a triple pivot, which should mean the front 5, whoever they may be, should just be allowed to run riot. So we probably just need a season to stabilise. I'd take another top 10 finish right now if you offered me it, because we just don't have the money to spend. One thing's for sure, we need to make the most and build a team around this man. With a severe lack of money, I've built a short list of players that are doing well from lower leagues, but crucially, all of them are out of contract. These include players from League 1 in England, League 2 in France, and all of them, absolutely all of them, were suitably scouted and analysed. Some players looked really good, both with the scouts and with the analysts. But this is where you need to trust your analysts when using this style, as this player, Milan Aleksic, who on the face of it looks like he would be an upgrade on our squad, and he had a decent season as well. And the scouts are super keen on him, rating him as an A+ signing. However, the data the analyst came back was less impressive. His most impressive standout was 89th in the Sky Bet Championship. So that's a player I'm going to pass on. I did find my replacement striker for the new season with a bit of targeted scouting in League 2. Coming to my attention was the top scorer in the league, Capit Joko. 18 goals for the season and a valuation that wasn't out of our ballpark. And when the reports came back, the scouts were not in favour of the signing. The analysts, however, really were, and you can see why. Top scorer in the league, but he also got his shots away, second in the league, he even put the work in winning tackles, so I quickly agreed a deal for 190,000. Also coming in, and this time on a free transfer, was one of the best keepers in Liga 2 in Portugal. This is one the scouts and the analysts actually agreed on. Looks a super solid young keeper in the top 5 for a load of metrics. And he'll be a vital signing because my number 1, Bernardo Fontes, he was so good last season, well he's getting tracked. The next and probably last signing was Dion Deneve from Blackburn in the English Championship. Here's a player who can play a raft of positions and with a bit of retraining could probably play absolutely anywhere. An A+ analyst recommendation, and you can see why. Topping the championships in terms of tackles per 90 minutes, interceptions and dribbles, so he's good going forward and going back. But after him, after getting rejected by a few other players and our financial position pretty much busted, we were left with this small tight squad. It's going to be stretched this season and I had to bring another 16-year-old in. Mamadou Kamara comes up from the youth team to help bulk out the squad. Unsurprisingly, seeing this, the media have predicted us to fall from our 7th place finish. They're thinking top 12. I'm really happy with the first 11, I'm just a bit worried if we get a few injuries. If I could get a mid-table finish this season, yep, I would be delighted. Yeah, so this is looking like it's going to be a slow build this. There is loads of good players at lower divisions, but their asking prices are way up there. It is just the start of July, so there is time to get more players in. There's a few players here that are completely released, having left their clubs. And the good thing about this is, despite it clicking over to the new season, your analyst reports do stick until the new season starts. As you can see there, I've still got Josh Nichols, his player analysis down here. He's a great player, I want him, I just can't afford his wages. So pre-season's coming up. Our first game is not till the 5th of August. So by keeping these players on the shortlist, I will try my best to try and get a couple of them in if the board will increase this recruitment budget ever so slightly. Well, it's midway point of the season. Did I bring any players in? Nope. It was quite frankly a nightmare start of a season as we went winless in our first 8 matches. We somehow got a draw away at Sporting, giving me hope for a revival. And following that, Djoko, the striker, did start to get going. But it was clear the financial situation at the club, now nearly 9 million in debt, was costing us big time. But we know the tactic's solid. And after that disaster start, we're now on our best run of the season. Sat in 12th position, I would end the season right now if you offered me it. Especially as clubs began to circle on our top players. It led to the tough decision to accept offers for our goalkeeper, Fernando Fontes, knowing I signed Fernandez in the summer for this very scenario. And getting nearly 4 million in our current situation was just too good to refuse. Thankfully and surprisingly, our average youth setup was pumping out some good players. This led to the promotion of this player, Vigo. Rui Vigo, I've already turned down bids from Benfica for him, and as you can see, his value is an incredible 11.5 to 17 million. He is definitely a classy little player and contributed 5 assists in the little time he had in the team. And in the second half of the season, we got over all the adversity, the squad banded together, and we did really well. Finishing in a respectable 11th place, more than happy with that. So yes, that was a tough season, but given the restraints we're currently working in, I'm pretty happy. Also good to know is I know how to improve. If you have a little closer look at this league table, it's a solid 11th place finish, and if we look a bit closer, we only scored 35 goals, which is the 3rd lowest in the league. Now that's not necessarily a knock on new striker Capit Djoko, who we signed down to data last season. He's actually done pretty well, scoring 11 times. That's only 5 fewer than that young striker we had last season. It reflects more on the team as a whole. The wingers, for example, they didn't really contribute. So next season, what can we do? Well, obviously we will look to improve, and despite being a ton in debt, the board have taken a gamble by giving me 1.5 million of that money we got for the sale of the goalkeeper. But I want to respect the club's financial position because we are very close to 9 million in debt, so I'm not going to go throwing the cash around. I maybe need to roll the dice in terms of the tactic and look to get more goal scoring opportunities. And I'm looking at the wing-back positions. This season we went with double inverted wing-backs, and defensively they have been superb. This is Rodrigo Diaz, making tackles, blocks and safe passes. Offensively, however, you can see just how bad that is, basically offering us absolutely nothing and playing super safe. So the choices are maybe making one or both of them playmaking wing-backs so they get even higher up and try to affect the game higher up, or making one or both of them a traditional wing-back, which might work with the rise of this youngster Vigo. Because although I played him as a winger, he hasn't really got the playing style to be a winger. He's more of a playmaker with that passing technique and flair. I mean, he only started 12 times, but he was by far our most creative player, so maybe I need to find the best way to use him. So the 3 players we brought in did a fine job. Diego Fernandez only conceded 21 goals. I was pretty happy with the journeyman striker Djoko getting that 11-goal season. And I largely used Dion Deneuve, who we got from the Championship last season, off the bench. But when he did play, as you can see, he did make a big impact, and he probably deserves more of a starring role next season. Okay, a brand new season. I feel like we've established ourselves at this level now. With the financial situation hanging over the club, 6.5 million in debt after TV money that's came in, I've decided, despite them offering me over $1 million to spend on players, instead I'm going to focus on yet more budget-free transfers and promoting even more of the youth team. So my plan for the youth players, I'm going to use some in the team because some of them are really good. There's a striker here, Rodrigo Cacheta. I mean, how we're creating these players with just an average youth setup, I'm not sure. But he's only 15. He's already in my first team squad. His value is top line 9.2 million. So I'm not going to loan someone like that out. He's 15. He'll be on my bench and I'll say he can play in the under-19s as well. However, some players like Hugo Costa here, who I've sent out last season, he'll go next season as well. The idea with him, because his top line value is 6 million, is to get that value up and hopefully entice some bids off the big boys to sort our financial position out. So I've got a clutch of players here, 15, 18, 17, young, good players. Now in a perfect world, I'd like to keep them. But with the financial mess the club's in, if we can sell them, it's probably the only way we can eventually progress. Speaking of progressing, this season's transfer targets, well, some are already on the way in. This is Fabio Di Michel Sanchez coming in from Eintracht Braunschweig from the 2nd division in Germany. Looks a pretty solid wing back, going to give me a different option out there. It's an A+ signing from the scouts, but it really comes to fruition when the analysts took a look at him. First place in terms of dribbles made, second place in terms of tackles attempted and 90 minutes. Covers a load of distance, top 3. He's just an exceptional player. Even key passes are getting involved. The second will be less spectacular, Luis Fernando, who's playing in the 2nd division in Portugal. Main reason for this pickup is he can cover a ton of positions. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He hasn't got blowaway data coming back, but he's still top 5 for goals, top 10 for crosses, and for low wages, he looks like a good quality signing. And the final signing was Joshua Dufus, who was at Saint Etienne, but last season he spent the entire season in League One in England, and that's where this data was analysed from. He was in the top 6 in terms of goals scored, gets his shots away, decent at crosses, again another solid player. So I've got a good starting 11, and the backups are largely made up of a mixture of journeyman players and those youth team players promoted. I have loaned out 3 players to gain experience and hopefully increase their value, and I have brought some money in. Although wanting to use him more this season, Dion Deneuve wanted to go back to Belgium and I accepted a £750,000 offer. And just this minute I've accepted a £2.4 million offer for winger Makan Aiko. Now it is a blow, but he wasn't great last season and I just think the money's too good to turn down. So I've no idea what to expect this season. It looks like we're going to have to target another mid-table finish because the quality of the squad at the minute is actually going down. The good news is we still do have Hugo Felix. And I've still got the brilliant centre-back partnership of Medina and Marquez. I'm also hopeful we get a good season out of the potential wonder kid Rui Vigo on the right-hand side. Using him as a playmaking winger, he'll be allowed to drift wherever he wants, and this time we'll have an overlapping winger to provide the width. I'm also intrigued to see how young striker Rodrigo Cacheta does, now 16, but Benfica are already sniffing around him. With a media prediction of 11th place, the grind well and truly continues. So there was a tactic change for the new season. Instead of that triple pivot with 2 inverted wing backs, we go to 1, which means we've got a double pivot, but it seems to be working pretty well as they hold their position, letting everybody else attack. And as for our young 16-year-old striker Cacheta, well, he could very well be the man to make the difference, and he's linking up superbly with Hugo Felix. We were even giving problems to Benfica, and this was the game where Cacheta scored his first goal for the club. And for that match away at Benfica, I actually dropped the winger to the wing-back position. So far, the slight tweaks to the tactic working great. You can see I've got double attacking midfielders in there now. And as the season went on, the results kept flowing, and the young guns in the team, well, they were making a massive difference. In fact, by the time we hit the new year, we were top 5 in the league. Keeping the same tactical shape, but just making slight tweaks seemed to be working. At one stage, young striker Rodrigo Cacheta was doing unbelievably and had the data to back it up. His attributes are all on the rise. He has quietened off in terms of goal scoring, so to make sure I don't overplay him, I have put Dufus in the team, the sign-in from the summer. And he's returned the favour with 6 goals in just 5 starts. And as a pure goal scorer, he's doing the job I asked of him. And some players are finally repaying the faith I had in them when I made the transfers. This is the best form Dejassi's had since he joined us. So at the midway point, I've got no complaints. Top 5 in the league and we're in the quarterfinals of the Cup. Our highlight of the second half of the season was probably this win at home against Benfica. After smashing my beloved Salgueiros 8-1 in the quarterfinals of the Cup, in the semis we comfortably got through 5-1, which meant we'd meet Sporting in the final at the end of the season. And in the second half of the season, we just had a dream campaign, only losing the one match, finishing just behind the big 3 in 4th position. And because of the league's performance overall, we're in the blooming Champions League. So it was time for the cup final, but injuries had robbed us of goalkeeper Fernandez and playmaker Vigo. Coming up against this Sporting team, it's going to be a big ask. Under pressure from the start, we managed to withhold an early storm from Sporting, but the dream season wasn't topped off as Sporting were just too dominant and had been for the entire season. Okay, huge progress has been made. This team, my God, what a performance. And finally, some of those signings have paid off. No more so than Dejassi out on the left. 14 assists this season, he finally delivered. From a creative midfielder, that's exactly what you want. And we signed him, if you remember, because his ability to dribble with the ball. And he gave us that top in the league for dribbles per 90 minutes. And not surprisingly, when you get 14 assists, he was right up there in terms of assists per 90. You've also got another monster season from Hugo Felix. I mean, with performances like that, he's probably getting as good as his brother now. So after a good season like that, this is the point where I need to see where we can improve. And I'm getting decent stats across the board. Progressive passes, that's what I'd look for from a defensive midfielder. Or in this case, from Fabio. So I brought him in as an attacking wingback, but he ended up playing as an inverted wingback and he had a cracking season. Now, if you remember, last season when I played inverted wing-backs, they were good in defence, as he has been here, but they were awful going forward. But he's been much, much better. Going forward, creative-wise, we're good. We've got Hugo Felix, we've got Dejassi, there's a few players in that top 20. And I've got a couple of good strikers who shared the workload. Doofus, who I like to call him Doofus, and then you've got Cachetta, who is the young 16-year-old. And yes, Benfica are coming. I think we might end up selling him, but if we do, it's going to be a big fee. So I've achieved the mini goal, getting us as the best of the rest with the unexpected bonus of getting in the Champions League. And if you remember last season, the goal scoring was the problem. So last season we scored 35, conceded 47. This season we've scored 54, conceded 30. So we're just a better team now. There was a big reliance on the youth players that came through, but the signings like Fernandez, the goalkeeper, Sanchez, the left wing back, the winger, Dejassi, these are players we've brought in. And a final appearance as well. So we've got one more step to do now. We need to break that top three. We're not far off them. We've got some good results against them. The thing that's going to count against us is two things. One is this balance here, which is again 8 million in debt. They have given us 1 million to spend, but we can't really spend that. We're going to have to shift that to wages and just get some freebies in. Unless, of course, we sell some of these players. But although this season was great, it's going to be much more complicated next year with those added European fixtures. There are some players lined up on the shortlist that I'd love to get in, but they're going to cost a bit of money. For example, Goncalo Marocos, he was in the second division in Portugal. He's bagged 17 goals this season. I see him as a perfect replacement if Benfica's still my boy. And he's first in a load of metrics that you'd want from your striker. So those players are there, they're ready. It all depends if the plan of developing our youth players means we get some money brought in. So I started my pre-season by bringing in 3 players from 3 different divisions. Mark Barrow comes in from the second division in Portugal. Rodrigo Alonso comes in for La Liga 2. And Miguel Teixeira comes in from Serie C. These are very much squad players, but they do have a bit of talent. Miguel, for example, very good midfielder. Scouts weren't too impressed, but the analysts saw a little bit more in him. Decent pass completion in Serie B last season and a good tackle-win ratio. He'll be good backup. The best version of my scouts and analysts going head-to-head was Mark Barrow. On the face of things, he looks a good utility player, but the scouts recommended him as a last resort signing, a D. But as I click over to the analyst, they have the opposite opinion, ranking him an A+ must-have signing. That's because they've got really good data to back up their recommendation. He's a good passer of the ball by his passes completed and progressive passing. He also wins the ball back. Some of his passing even leads to key passes as he features in the top 12. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another reason to back your analysts, sometimes over your scouts. When those 3 sign, they'll make the squad that bit stronger, especially with the extra European fixtures. We enter at the 3rd qualifying round. If we could get through that, we should be in for some decent money. I do still feel like we need some extra quality, but we don't have the money to do that yet. But it is only the 30th of June, so there is time for transfers to go out. After getting the squad players in, I felt we needed a bit more talent for the starting positions, and Gustavo Nunes could be just that. Currently out loan at Portsmouth in League One, he's a little bit of class. Once costing Brentford 10 million, he can't get a kick at the top level. He spent time in the 2nd division in Germany and the 3rd tier in England. A rare occasion where the scouts and the analysts both agree he'd be an excellent signing. Could be a different type of attacking midfielder for me as he concentrates on running with the ball in true Brazilian style. Having signed him, that was 5 players through the door. With an 8th place media prediction finish, I was looking forward to the season, but a little bit concerned about those European fixtures. The good news was the European fixtures had helped our finances. We're nearly on the verge of fixing things. That was despite failing in the Champions League. We did win our first match against Bodo Glimt, but succumbed in the second leg. This knocked us into the Europa League, and we got a few standout performances and results, and the best one was undoubtedly this 3-1 away victory at RB Leipzig. Having finished a very respectable 16th, winning 4 out of our 8 matches, we'd finally got ourselves into a positive balance financially. That's despite only selling a few fringe players and bringing in 925,000. We got to the last 16 in Europe, just succumbing to RB Salzburg 1-0 on aggregate. And that kinda was the theme for our season in the Cups, as we got knocked out in the quarterfinals of the Taça de Portugal by Porto and the semi-finals by the same team in the Taça de Liga. Now then, how about the league campaign? It was another impressive season. We got some big wins and the players we brought in were really contributing. Gustavo Nunes seems to be a brilliant signing. His value shot up to 8.8 million. He scored 10 goals with 8 assists, and his general performance and creativity was exactly what I needed. And as a squad player, Mark Barrow, the player the scouts did not want us to sign, well, he plays 31 matches, and last season's signing Doofus up front smashed in 19 goals. With really impressive seasons from the youngsters coming through, Hugo Costa, now 20. He's turned into one of my best players, and I'd be amazed if we can keep hold of him. The team and tactic firmly established themselves as the best of the rest. Once again, finishing 4th, a little bit closer to those big three. We scored more goals and got more points than last season, but just couldn't quite get to that top 3 position. So we've done everything right here. We are the best of the rest on a shoestring budget, and I'm dead proud of it. I'm actually loving the way we've built this squad. We've got 4 players there that were there from day one. We've signed 10 players using our analyst reports, and we've got 10 players from the youth setup that we've been promoting. So that to me is the perfect little squad blend. The signings, the youth setup and the day oneers. Now the signings we have made like Diego Fernandez, we're going to struggle to keep hold of him because as you can see, he's now wanted by some giant teams, specifically Atletico de Madrid. And this is where it gets tempting to carry on that little bit longer because a player like Vego, who we chucked in the team really young, his value is a ridiculous 36 to 49 million. That's only after 2 full seasons really, 2.5 seasons. But there is teams looking at him now, Freiburg in Germany, and he's kind of wanting to go to a bigger club, so he may make the move this summer. Yeah, mixed feelings on that because we have developed him ourselves, just like we've developed the other young players. Hugo Costa, we took our time with him. He's not the finished product, as you can see from his career here. We sent him out on loan to Lustiania, and he's had a couple of seasons with us, best season yet. And the other hot prospect is Ricardo Afonso, who is a lightning quick winger. Same deal for him. He's had a season out on loan, and now he's established with us. Big things to come from him. We've got within 8 points of the big three. Porto currently the team closest to us. Look, I think we've done pretty well to get us there. Spending 1.5 million over 5 seasons, bringing in over 9, and a good mini achievement has been getting the balance of the club back into profit. It was looking dire at one stage, but I have made the difficult decision after 5 years in charge to move on to the next challenge, and still pretty happy that we made Tiny Tondela the best of the rest. West Ham. Man, what a mess. Officially relegated from the Premier League and with a big rebuild job on, but it won't be Nuno. Instead, I'll be taking over to fix this mess, and with me comes the analyst team to sort out all the recruitment. An interesting subplot here is the way the scouts and the analyst team don't always agree. Sometimes the scouts hate a player, but the analysts, they absolutely love them. So no doubt after a massively underperforming season, they are in a mess and I expect a big squad turnover. And as you can see, some of the players, they already want out. Right then, welcome to West Ham, updated database. So we're starting afresh from next season coming. And normally I take over halfway through a season and let the data build up. This time, however, I'm going to take over right now, which is the start of July, to make sure that we have a bit of a squad exodus to keep it realistic. And then come January, whatever players we lose, we can start to replace them using the analyst team. So when you look at West Ham, it is obviously a Premier League driven club. The stadium is humongous, they've got great training facilities, good youth facilities, and the squad is big, and at the minute it's technically Premier League level. If I was to leave it here, I would expect automatic promotion, and so will the board. But we are going to make it hard for ourselves. In this off-season, I'm going to accept any reasonable bid that comes in for the star players. So expect the likes of Jared Bowen, Fernandez, the promising youngster Juve at left back, and Somerville, well, they'll probably be leaving. Normally to replace those players would be in a good spot because we've got 23 million already, and we've already started the exodus. Alvarez, who was on loan at Fenerbahce, has made his move permanent. If after the summer the squad is too small, I will drop into the under-21s and even the under-18s to bulk up the squad. So into the summer months, there was some interesting football happenings. Eddie Howe got sacked by Newcastle and took over at Wolves. And after England's dismal World Cup, they appointed Patrick Vieira. The one moves I could make was to get my staff ready, specifically those analyst positions, and I've bulked it out with a full team of performance, and nearly a full team of recruitment analysts. The analysts I brought in are either good in terms of analysing data and player ability, or in some cases very good. With the season about to kick off, more money was brought in. Freddie Potts went to our championship rivals Wolves for $13.75 million, and after getting moody, I let Somerville join Brentford on loan with a view to a permanent transfer. By the time the summer transfer window had shut, we'd stuck to our guns and brought no players in, but annoyingly other teams had jumped on the loan bandwagon. Striker Castellanos, who would have scored an absolute bucketful in the championship, has gone back to Serie A. The good thing about that move is, though, we should get $42.5 million if he hits that remit. Fernandez went to Forest on loan, but the big surprise was Jared Bowen didn't leave the club. What a lad. That's despite having an active relegation release clause of just $20 million. He's a bargain for somebody, but at the minute, he stays. So initially, we were odds-on favourites for automatic promotion, but after those transfers out, Wolves took our place. But we are still heavy favourites, and the board really do expect promotion, so I decided to go for it. I went into the season aggressive with a tactic. We have to get promoted, so I'm going for it big time. I was amazed I was able to hold on to Juve, and him as an attacking wing-back just means I can push Bowen up to be a bit of a wandering forward. And although the squad was depleted thanks to the transfers, we still had some class, and it could be a season of redemption for the likes of flop signing Nicholas Füllkrug, James Ward-Prowse, and in Adama Traore, we've always got that random X factor. As we got to the midway point of our season in the Championship, things were going really well, as you might expect. So we've only lost the 3 matches. We do sit in second, but you will notice we have 3 games in hand. At the minute, we're doing really well in terms of goals and defending, but what is with these 3 games? So this is the only problem with using an updated database, because for some reason it's thrown us into the Europa League. That's because if we go to last season's fixtures, although they are the real results and fixtures for the league campaign, they are not the real results and fixtures for the FA Cup, and we ended up getting to the FA Cup final against Aston Villa and blooming winning it. So that put us into the Europa League, which then meant my squad, which was stretched already in terms of numbers, had even more fixtures to play. Now, annoyingly, despite resting players for the Europa League campaign, we have managed to qualify. So I'm not doing cartwheels about the league campaign because we should be right up there. The tactics working well, whether it would work so well in the Premier League, I don't really know. We are about to enter the next transfer window, and we have managed to keep some of these players, but will we keep them after that? Jared Bowen, for example, still has that release clause, and he's had a really good season being a creative player with 11 assists. You can see he's far too good for this level, especially when it comes to creativity with assists, key passes and dribbles. He'll be a big loss if we lose him. And we talked about redemption, didn't we? Well, to be fair to Füllkrug up front, he's done just that with 18 goals in 25 matches. 0.7 goals per 90. If we lose him, that's pretty tough to replace. The other 2 standout players were the redemption arc players, James Ward-Prowse and Adama Traore. Traore has been exceptional with 10 goals and 10 assists with the best average rating at the club. That data for wingers is absolutely insane. And as for the much maligned James Ward-Prowse, he has fired back with a vengeance with 15 goals this season. I'm playing him as a channel midfielder and he has just excelled. He's getting striker numbers in terms of goals, a good amount of assists as well. The problem I'm going to have is the players that are topping my metrics, like assists with Adama, key passes with Jared Bowen, the same 2 for chances created, my fullbacks in terms of tackles per 90 minutes. Well, these are all players that could very well leave this window. So I'm going to prepare myself for the worst. We need to complete this promotion and push on, so I'm going to recruit right now. Normally I wait till the summer, but we're going for it in this transfer window. And we're coming from a position of somewhat power because we've got 33 million and that's before any players leave us. As expected, well, it didn't take long. Jared Bowen ends up at Arsenal for 20 million. And that leaves a gaping gap in my deep line forward position. Preparing for the worst, I have got this shortlist full of decent players ready to jump in. Some players on this shortlist you wouldn't expect me to go for. Mohamed Ihataren, he's playing for Fortuna in the Eredivisie, and if you look at his season stats of 0 goals, 1 assist, you might wonder why he's on the shortlist. The scouts aren't particularly excited about him, but the analysts are. A+, that's because he's one of the most creative players in the Eredivisie, topping every key pass metric you can get, and key passes, some would argue, are just as important as assists. He's not a direct replacement for Jared Bowen though, so I'm not going to make a move yet, but I will continue to track him. But I have made my bid for the player I'm going to look to replace Jared Bowen, and it's here. This is Mohamed Daramy, who can play out wide just like Bowen, but also he's pretty familiar with playing as a drop-off striker. This could be seen as a risk because he's playing in the second level in France. He has scored 7 times with 4 assists, and here's an occasion where the scouts and the analyst team both love him, because despite playing out wide, he's getting the most shots per 90 minutes away in Ligue 2. He tops in terms of average rating, expected goals, non-penalty XG. He's just a fantastic looking player who throws in assists as well. If I add to the equation he's going to cost about 10 million, this is a sensible signing. As the transfer window continued, the transfers out just kept on coming. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was sold for 29 million. Now replacing him was interesting. He's playing as a fullback. I'm not asking him to be creative, but what he does excel at is progressive passes. He was also superb defensively, with his tackles attempted right up there. So the player I landed on is Harry Clark, who's a Premier League player. He's top 7 in terms of clearances, he's up there in terms of blocks, tackles attempted, tackles won, pressures completed, and we've got to remember that despite being in the top 20, he is playing at a higher division. So selling Wan-Bissaka for 29 million and hopefully getting him for 6.25 million seems like a good bit of business. Especially with Kyle Walker-Peters already at the club, they can share that duty. And when Walker-Peters has played, he's been pretty much doing the job that Wan-Bissaka's been doing anyway. It wasn't all about replacing players because I was looking to improve the team as well, and in Souček and Ward-Prowse, although they're both playing fantastically, they're both getting on in terms of years. So I think I found the midfielder I want to replace one of them, and he's playing for the team down in 21st position. This is Irishman Jason Knight, who's only 25 years of age. His attributes do tell you he looks a pretty good player, and his season stats for a team that's struggling are damn fantastic. But what really stood out for me was the data that came back. Despite playing in midfield, he's getting the most shots per 90 minutes away. He's top 5 in terms of average rating in the entire league. And you look at his overall data, combining goals per 90 with assists per 90, good pass percentage. He was signed for 10.5 million, and I think that's a bit of a bargain. By the time the transfer window closed, one further player left us, and that was Fulkrug, and believe it or not, he's going to be a bit of a disaster to replace. He was the top scorer at the club and left really late near the transfer deadline. It left me a bit short up front with only the injury-prone Callum Wilson and Pablo Felipe to take his place. A late move for Getafe's Kristantos Uche filled at the last hurdle, as did a move for Besiktas striker Semi Kaluxoy. Both moves were loaned to a view to a transfer, and both of them were pretty good in terms of data. But the transfer window slammed shut, so we couldn't bring any further players in. Our annoyingly successful run in the Europa League finally ended as we met Aston Villa in the quarter-finals, losing 3-2. We also had a really good run in the FA Cup, which does give me hope for next season as we push Liverpool to the limit. We ended up losing 4-3, but we had the better of things. But the most important thing, the Championship, well, thankfully our early season form did most of the work, because after January and all those transfers that left us, we were a bit up and down, but with 4 or 5 matches to go, we sealed promotion and we sealed the title, getting West Ham back to the Premier League. We end the season on 95 points, but we definitely did drop off a little bit in that second half of the season. Having said that, we did get ourselves 106 goals this season, so I know the tactic is great going forward. Question is, am I brave enough to use it next season? Of the new signings, Jason Knight was a big success. His performance kind of mimicked that of James Ward-Prowse, and Darami did a good job replacing Jared Bowen. And Harry Clark, who came in to replace Wan-Bissaka, was actually better in terms of progressive passes per 90 minutes. That's an outstanding number. Player of the season was undoubtedly Adama Traore, top in the league for average rating, most player of the match, most assists, and most dribbles made. What a season that man has had. And for us as a team, there weren't many metrics that we didn't top. Right, so a successful season, but it was always going to be that way. We had to get promoted, and we did. I said at the start, if offers came in, we would just accept them, and that's what we did, even if they were loan signings. So it meant we got a lot of players leaving us in January, like Fulkrug, who we could have done with staying, Wan-Bissaka, who was randomly good, but we replaced them pretty well with these 3 players. Jared Bowen might be regretting his transfer because he's barely played since he joined Arsenal. Now, for us going into next season, this is where we need to get the recruitment right, because one thing West Ham fans will tell you is that their recruitment has been pretty abysmal as of late. Don't get me wrong, a lot of these players will start next season because I think they're good enough, but we definitely do need some more players in. Up front to plug the gap, Pablo Felipe played. So at 23, he does have some promise, but he only scored 10 times in 25, and that's in a team that did score over 100 goals. So he's gone at 0.4 goals per 90 at this level. At the Premier League, I would accept that all day, but can he make that step up? I'm not so sure, so I'll probably be looking for a striker. Now, I brought Knight in. He was a great success, so I'm going to give him a chance next season. Next to him, Ward-Prowse, Souček. Although they had good seasons, they are 32 now, and I'm going to keep them as backup. So I'm going to give him a new contract, but we need a central midfielder for next season that's going to be Premier League level. Juve has wanted to leave us all season, bless his heart, to go to a higher level, but now we're promoted, maybe he'll stay with us. I mean, he's had a good season, he's only 22, that value's only going to go up. But if there are bids coming in, I have made a shortlist full of players that I'm ready to bring in if some of ours leave. For example, if Juve leaves, Kabalash Vili, who's in Turkish football, is going to be his replacement. He's the top man in his position over in Turkish football. 6 player of the matches, loads of interceptions. His progressive passes are great, which is what we need from a fullback. And he puts those tackles in. And if you remember, Juve was top of that in our division. I've also got some lads on there for the forward position. There's Kristansas Uche, who was eyeing up this season, which I didn't manage to get the deal over the line. There's Roberto Fernandez at Espanyol. There's Troy Parrott at AZ Alkmaar. And that random player, Mohamed Ihatarian, did he maintain his form through all of the season? As you can see, the analyst report says he did. He stayed top in terms of key passes in the Eredivisie. So he could be a decent signing, especially as he's out of contract. So now we need to plan for our first season back in the Premier League. Survival is the only goal. I need to decide as well whether this tactic will be okay in the Premier League. Out of possession, it drops into a 4-3-3. So Darami, the deep line forward, jumps into a winger position to cover that, and the fullback drops back. It's pretty similar to what they're playing in possession. Because of all the player sales, you'd think we'd have about 150 million, right? But the board have taken the money, probably to buy a new yacht, and they've given us 48 million to spend. Straight into pre-season, I wanted to get my business done early, and I thought 2 positions were definitely needed. First off, I was really light in the striker department. It's going to be vital for us to score goals at Premier League level. I'd continued to track Troy Parrott in Eredivisie, a shining recommendation from both the scouts and the analyst team. Not hard to see why, he's a striker that's going to score me goals. The deal was sorted for 20.5 million. But it didn't stop there, as I raided Norwich, who were also getting promoted to the Premier League. Mohamed Toure wasn't a starter for them, but he was absolutely prolific. I see him as one for the future and possibly an impact sub, because 0.9 goals per 90 is absolutely ridiculous. He comes in on a cut price move, sensible business. In the search for new midfielders, I ended up having a look at the Turkish Super League, and a player who topped the expected assist table came to my attention, especially when he doubled that up with key passes. Danishman Carlo Holz. A really good creative player, but crucially he also covers distance and wins the ball back. Available for just 10.5 million, he looks like a good quality signing. If we add that signing to the fact that Mateus Fernandes, who's on loan at Nottingham Forest, well, they've hardly played him and he's coming back, so those two will cover that midfield position. Then I started to bulk out the squad with other moves. For some competition at centre-back, Arnel Ahmed Hodzic. Yeah, that was hard to say. He's at Feyenoord playing in the Eredivisie. But crucially, he does have experience of English football. And he excels in terms of possession won and solid on the ball. That move was signed sealed for just 10 million. For cover at left back, I had an interesting scenario. It was either going to be Noah Sangoy or Joseph Kalulu. Both players are playing in League 2. Although Kalulu had the slight edge in terms of assists, Sangoy had the edge on pretty much every other aspect. Combining that with the data where he was top 5 for a lot of defensive work and progressive passes, a 6.5 million deal was done. The key here was just to add quality to this squad because the players deserve a chance at the next level. Traore was out of this world, and the goalkeeper, he did really well as well. There was still time for one more signing, and it was time to flex on Norwich City yet again. Forward or winger Jovan Makama. Again, Norwich didn't play him as much as they probably should. 10 goals, 10 assists, they only started him 21 times. A+ from the analysts, and for a forward, top in the league in terms of open play key passes, shots per 90 second, average rating second in the entire championship. All this from a player who didn't regularly start. And in he came as well, 10.5 million. In total I brought in 8 players, but I had to, because to go alongside the 17 players that left us last season for 78 million, this season we lost another 7, bringing in another 90 million. This included Somerville, who ended up at Rennes, Kyle Walker-Peters, who went to Atletico Madrid, and Castellanos did indeed make his move to Cagliari for 42.5 million. So in total, so far in our short time at West Ham, the rebuild has been extreme and it's been quick. We've brought in £100 million worth of players and we've sold nearly 170 million. So we're back in the big time, and the media prediction, well, they expect us to struggle, ranking us in 17th position. And going into the season, I thought, to hell with it. We're going to go attacking and we're going to try and score enough goals to keep us in the league. Hopefully the board can see what I'm doing and they give us the time. After a good pre-season, something really quite special happened on our first game of the season. We played Crystal Palace in a London derby, and Traore, well, he decided to do Traore things. As we slapped in an astonishing 8-goal win. It was down to earth in the next match with an away defeat to Tottenham and a bit of a savaging by Liverpool, but In the home matches, we seem to be getting a decent little run together, and our attacking approach seemed to be rattling some of the big teams as we battered Man City at home. And it didn't end there. In what can only be described as a dream return to the Premier League, we were beating teams left and right. It led to this ridiculous visual. In our first season back in the Premier League, we are topping the blooming league. And the craziest thing about this, despite our attacking tactic, we've only conceded 17 goals and smashed in 50. So I don't really know what to say about this. This has gone ridiculously well. Now, I don't think we'll stay there because there is 5-6 teams all within 5 points. So we might end up dropping down the table, but I think it's safe to say we're safe. If this isn't a sign to do signings this way, I don't know what is, because all of them have been fantastic. You see the team there, but it's not been the team all season because I have rotated massively. You can see that when I go to the appearance column, loads of plays in double digits. The strikers have been absolutely fantastic, and last season's signing Mohamed Daramy, he's just gone to a new level. He scored 13 times in 19 games with 10 assists. These are balmy numbers, and remember, we signed him from the French second tier. So he's pretty much started every match. Next to him, it's been a rotation between Parrott and Makama. Parrott's done really well, 11 goals in 22. And Makama, just like he was at Norwich, when he gets on, he genuinely does something. He scored 8 times in just 6 starts, which does equate to 0.9 goals per 90, and he's also chucking in assists. I really should find a way to get him starting as well. And this man, Adama. I mean, if you've not signed him in your saves, get him signed, because at 31, he is ripping up the Premier League. He's performing nearly as well as he did last season at the ripe age of 31. This is Mateus Fernandes back from his loan, absolutely fantastic. And the left back spot's in safe hands. Juve stayed with us, been fantastic, attacking and defending. And his backup, Noah Sangui, although he hasn't played much, when he does play, he's a fantastic cover defender. So this has been a dream. Slightly embarrassed we're doing this well in our first season back. It helps, I think, that we've got a pretty solid 4-3-3 and players that can do that job, like Daramy. When he jumps to wing, he's fine doing that because he can play out there as well. But the question is, can we maintain this till the end of the season? Because with this type of success, obviously leads to players getting tracked by some big clubs. So it is January, I'm expecting some bids. I do have 50 million to spend if I need to. And what I'm really happy about is I've kept a lot of those players I was tracking last season on my shortlist. And to be honest, some of them have fell off a bit. Such as Uche, he's not really scoring this season and he's dropped right down. So sometimes it's good to keep a player on the shortlist for a season or two just to make sure they're not a one-season wonder. We continued the second half of the season very much like we left off the first, with this 6-5 epic against Everton kind of summing it up. The way we played this season, it would have been a shame if we didn't have anything to show for it. And this 2-leg win over Brentford meant we were going to the EFL Cup final. It was a tough one because we were going up against mighty Arsenal, but new player, Sangui, smashed in the winner. So overall, the second half of the season wasn't too dissimilar from the first half of the season. We lost 5 matches in the second half after losing 4 in the first half. This run of games at the end of the season, a 5-3 over Aston Villa, a 2-0 over Hull, and this final day victory over Fulham meant we qualify for next season's Champions League. So we weren't able to maintain our spot at the top of the Premier League. That would have been quite ridiculous, but we did do enough to get into that top 4 and to bag an EFL Cup as well. You've got to say that's a pretty successful season. I guess now, because we're so far ahead of schedule, the only goal is really to see if we can maintain this, a top 4-5 finish in the Premier League using our recruitment style. We did have a little bit of a late wobble in the season, so there is areas to improve. And so far, the most we've spent on a player is 20 million for Troy Parrott. In this day and age, that's not a lot. It's good to know the tactic's successful, I just need to work out where I can improve things. Up front, Daramy has been a revelation, 15 goals in the Premier League, 20 overall. He's made that deep line forward position his own. Next to him, however, I'm going to make a change. Troy Parrott did pretty well, 11 goals in 30, 17 in 36. But because we're ahead of schedule, I'm going to get a bit greedy and I want more from my main striker. But instead of buying the new one, I'm going to give Jovan Makama his chance to be the starting striker. When he played this season, he made things happen with 11 goals and 9 assists. And he just gave me a bit more than Troy Parrott does, so I think he deserves his chance. The other position I'm going to look to improve is defensive midfield. There was a rolling cast of characters played in that position. It was either Souček, Magasa or James Ward-Prowse, but none of them really locked down the position. And I do need to be slightly aware that the brilliant Traore, another brilliant season with 16 goals and 15 assists, but I do need to be aware that he is 32, so I might need a replacement ready for him. And it will be another pre-season where I do accept offers that are reasonable. The likes of Juve is going to be a wanted man. He's absolutely fantastic. But we did a great job buying his backup last season in Noah Sangui. I gave him as many starts as I could in the various cup competitions, and his overall performance kind of warrants a start, so I won't be devastated if Juve does get taken from me. With the Champions League money coming in, the board are giving me 89 million to spend if we need to. And with those extra fixtures, the squad is quite small, especially considering the players that are going to leave us, so there is a little bit of work to do in Season 3. So then, how do you improve on a great season? Well, you do it by kind of being a bit harsh on some players that have been good for you. Harsh in terms of judging them. I mean, Parrott's done pretty well, but can we do better? And harsh in terms of the players that I'm going to rotate out to some players that have done really well for us at centre-back, at midfield and DM, but we need to just go up a level. And some things are forced upon us, such as Mavropanos. He's been very good, but he's off to Fiorentina on a free transfer. So the shortlist got built, the scouts have been sent out, and we've got some decent players on the way in. First of all, that defensive midfield position. We're making a move for Morten Freundrup, who's at Genoa. And he looks uber talented, especially for a DM, because he's third in terms of expected assists in the entire Serie A. Not only that, but he keeps the ball really well, passes completed, top 4. And he's a hard worker, covering distance, getting the ball moving with progressive passes. This looks like a no-brainer. At just 14 million, I can't turn it down. Then I moved to the centre-back position, and I wanted a few players in. For this position, I had a look around the top leagues, and he ended up in Portugal. The scout reports came back on a few players. It came down to a choice between Ibrahim Abba, who's at Famalicão, and Bastien Maupayu, who's at Alversa. In the end, it was the French defender, who's only 22, who won the battle. He's second in terms of headers won, wins the ball back a lot as well, also adding interceptions into that. The deal was done for 10 million. But I didn't stop there for that position and brought in 2 more. The first was a cut price move for Iben Bauet, who starred for Portsmouth in the Championship. In fact, let me correct myself, he's actually been playing in League 1, so it's an even bigger risk, but I think he'll be good backup, especially when you consider he's the outstanding defender in that league in terms of headers, possession won. The second, also from the Championship, was Callum Doyle of Wrexham. More of a ball-winning centre-back with stats across the top 10, but also comfortable on the ball. The search was also on for that winger to rival Traore, who's now 32. And I wanted a pretty like-for-like replacement, and I think I found that in Kwadwo Ba, who's playing for Watford. Not only does he have the dribbling ability and the acceleration and pace, but he was the top dribble maker per 90 minutes in the Championship and second in terms of total dribbles. I'd seen enough, and another cut price deal was done. However, it didn't end there, because I went for another right-sided player in Jan Vergeli. He's at Mallorca in La Liga. At only 21, he has all the technical attributes. He also scored 10 in that league this season, and yet again, he is the top dribble maker in that league, both in terms of per 90 minutes and total dribbles. And think about the guys in that league. At only 21, he cost a little bit more, but I think it's a cracking signing for the future. And with another off-season where I'm expecting bids for Juve, I wanted another left-back just in case. So I stayed in the Championship and went for Wolves player Alexander Pras. This is one where the scouts weren't particularly excited. The analysts very much were. A hard-working fullback, leads the league in intensity sprints, pressures attempted. But he also second in terms of crosses, gets his tackles in. What a good player this guy looks. And yet another cut price sensible transfer. The last key position I wanted was this central midfield role, an attacking one. After getting priced out of moves for players I was scouting and analysed, I ended up back in Portugal looking at Rodrigo Zalazar, who's at Braga and, crucially, out of contract this summer. There is big competition for him. He's top 5 for tackles, top 5 for key passes. And crucially, he's going to cost nothing, so I see it as a no-risk signing. So once he came in, my business was pretty much done. Well, I thought so, but there are players interested in some of my players, especially at centre-back. So this time I ended up in Serie A, and up popped defender Alessandro Saccarti. After a quick scouting mission, it was clear he was a player that I really should consider. Playing this well in a league like Serie A deserves a closer look. He turned out to be another big signing, and after last season's exits, combined with this season's, this time the business was done and we were ready for the new season. Going into it, the team looks very different. There are some competition for places, but that might be the starting 11. Now, as we got to the halfway point of the season, we sat in 4th place, which I'm delighted with. But there was a little bit of a drop from the season before, and it's got a lot to do with the extra games of the Champions League. We were still performing well, getting some good results, but it became clear that I probably needed a striker, as games like this, where we had shots after shots and ended up losing, were pretty common. It didn't help that keyman Mohamed Daramy was missing a large chunk of the season through injury. Of the new players, Zalazar was a bit of a revelation, and his overall performance was absolutely fantastic for an attacking midfielder. Now, overall, the season wasn't as spectacular as last season, but it was definitely one that looked good and had some promising moments, like this against Coventry. But it wasn't a season that my strikers excelled. Makama, with his starting role, only smashed in 10 goals. Troy Parrott only scored 9, Darami did score 16, but he'd missed a huge chunk of the season, which might explain our problem. A problem that was summed up by this match in the FA Cup, where we had 41 shots and still didn't manage to score and got knocked out on penalties. We did have a late season surge where we started to score, but when the season finished we ended up down in 7th position. A bit of a drop from last year. But if you look a bit closer, there was only 3 points between 7th place and 3rd place. And when I went to the XG table, if we'd sorted out our striker problem, we would have finished top 4 yet again. So a good season. Normally I'd be more than happy with that, but because we were so good last season, I just think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. You'll notice the big gap up there because that's the position that I want this season. If we can get a striker that's going to bang in 20-25 goals, we might get ourselves back to that top 4. There honestly isn't much wrong with this team. You can see on the right hand side, Bars came in. He's came in near the end of the season. I think it's time for Traore to step aside. And he hasn't played much, but when he does play, he does make most of his minutes in terms of assists. Midfield 3 are fantastic and have got good chemistry. Salazar ended up top scorer in the team with 17. So for this squad to progress, we're going to go all out for a superstar striker. Now the good news is we do have money to spend because some players simply just have not worked out. It's a combination of things. Armen Hodzic, for example, didn't work out for us and he's gone to Wolves. Or a player like Carlo Holz just hasn't had a chance to play. I think he'd be a good player, but I just haven't played him, so it's more on me than him. The Champions League was a bit of a bust. We didn't get out of the league stage, but next season we have qualified for the Europa Conference League. We might have a good chance in that. So what I'm going to do on this, I'm taking a long time with this save, as you can probably tell with transfers. My goal for next season is to get West Ham back in this top 4 or 5 and try and have a good run at one of the cups. That's the goal to complete this little story. What I really need is a signing up front that will be as successful as Darami has been. Bought for just 10.5 million 3 seasons ago, and he came from the 2nd division in France. Right, so going into pre-season, I am locked in on that striker target, but I'm also going to look for a goalkeeper as well. So 2 positions, Hermansen has been my number 1 throughout, but he's never really had competition. He's done pretty well, I just want somebody to put a bit of pressure on him. And that somebody could be in the same league and available for a cut price fee. Lucas Hornacek is at Wolves. They've just got relegated. So he's had a lot to do in terms of saves, but he looks like a really good option. Best part about that is he's only going to cost 8.75 million. Now we move on to strikers. What's the big need for strikers? Well, the signings were fantastic last season. But I don't want to see 41 shots with no goals this season. After spending some time scouting the active leagues, the shortlist is made and the scouts have been sent out to aid the final decision. The first man that comes up is Elias Hervel, who's at Leeds United and topped the goal scoring charts with 23 goals in the Premier League. The positives for him are he's proven that he can do it at the Premier League level. The big question is though, was he just a one season wonder? He's top of some key striker metrics in the league. Next up I went to France and Hansa Igamane, who's proven that he can score against the big clubs. 19 goals this season. He was a top scorer in Ligue 1. Next we go to the Bundesliga and we've got Werder Bremen striker Konstantin Tayakavin. Attribute wise he is fantastic. He scored 14 goals this season. He might be one of the better value signings at 17 to 25 million. Now if money was no object, the top man I would go for is Carl Etta Young. He's at Sporting, an out and out goal scoring machine. And he's got the best striker analyst report you will see anywhere. Outstanding. Big problem with him is the fee is absolutely massive. A potential bargain option is Igor Jesus, who's at Nantes in Ligue 1. Now he scored 8 goals this season, but it wasn't for the want of trying because he was second in terms of getting his shots on target, third in terms of getting the most shots in the league, and he's available for a knockdown 7 million. He could be a second striker to a main striker that I bring in. There were other candidates as well. Junior Krupi I just thought was too much money. Raspadori at Atalanta. His analyst report didn't set me on fire, and the player I ended up going for was in the Eredivisie. 26-year-old American striker Ricardo Pepe of PSV. Top scorer in the Eredivisie this season and 19 overall. An astonishingly good analyst report in terms of a striker, top of everything you want to see. It was a tricky deal to put together with PSV wanting a whopping 70 million, but I'd managed to structure it and ended up only forking out 35 million up front. With goalkeeper Hornacek and Igor Jesus also signing to supply squad depth. Now the squad was looking pretty damn good and I made one more signing in Liberelli. Mattia Liberelli from Catanzaro doesn't look like he's had a great season in Serie A, but his team have been relegated. So for him to get this analyst report in a relegated team meant for 2.6 million, absolute no-brainer. The only slight annoyance through the entire pre-season was because the league did so well, we've been moved from the Conference League to the Europa League, which will be that little bit harder. So the squad's done. That was one of the easier transfer windows because we've done so much legwork in prior seasons. Pepe up front could be the final piece of the jigsaw. And the way he started and the way the team has started, this could be pretty special. That was a 6-goal win over Middlesbrough, which is part of an unbelievable start to the season. We have just lost our first match. That was against Liverpool, but we are sitting top 2. An electric start after a pretty favourable fixture list. I have made one error though. The goalkeeper signed Hornacek. I was so excited to get him for just 8.75 million that I made a schoolboy error. I didn't really check his contract and he's slapped in a minimum fee release clause of just 17.5 million, so fingers crossed no one takes that. And I'm hoping we've sorted these goal scoring issues out because in these 6 games so far, we've smashed 18 goals in, so 3 per match, and we've only conceded 4. Fingers crossed this could be our best season yet. Through to the midway point of the season, the new signings were playing well and we were keeping up that momentum. But there was a bit of a problem. And the problem was, despite us scoring a load of goals, 4 of my strikers went down to long-term injuries. Disaster. Despite that, I'd built a squad strong enough to just about withstand it. As we got to the midway point of the season, those players were on the way back. And so far, we are sat in 3rd position. Newcastle are stomping the league, but we're right in the mix-up. But it's never a smooth ride. And as expected, Lucas Hornacek put that release clause in for a reason. He jumped off to Saudi, but not panicking, I went off to Ligue 1 in France. Saw the goalkeeper with the most clean sheets in the league, Obed Nakambadio. Got my scouts and my analysts on the case, and they backed up the fact he'd be a cracking signing and for a dirt cheap fee as well. And he proved to be a great signing, pulling off some big time saves. And the hunt for a trophy was aided by a pretty favourable FA Cup draw as we made the final. After a little glitch in the Premier League, we responded really well, getting some massive wins and maintaining our position in that top 4, qualifying for next season's Champions League. The emphasis on the new striker worked the treat as we finished 2nd in terms of top goal scorers, and Pepe did the business, smashing in 29 goals overall. Once fit, the front 2 were fantastic. Pepe was aided by Darami, who gave me the perfect overall striker performance. And in the FA Cup final, 2 of the new signings combined to give us a famous win and get us that trophy we were after. So mission accomplished, we got ourselves in the top 4 with a trophy. Slight change to the tactic was this version for tougher matches. Might not look like a big change. The only changes to the tactic were mentality drops to balanced and in possession stayed the same, but out of possession, this position becomes an inverted outlet winger and Fernandes transitioned to a wide covering central midfielder to cover that area a bit more, and a tracking winger. We used that quite a lot in the back end of the season just to get us over the line as a bit of fatigue hit. The positions you see that aren't filled, those are the ones I rotated quite a lot. The others kind of set in stone. Do you know what? Losing our goalkeeper was actually a blessing in disguise because this guy was actually really good. He only conceded 26 in his 28 matches. And his save percentage was actually better, one of the best in the league, 80%. Good player, and cheap. So I wanted to do this rebuild save by taking our time and balancing the books throughout, trying to keep it as realistic as we could. And as you can see, we ended up bringing in £281 million worth of players, and we sold 309 million. So we did it in a profit. It's a very different squad from the one we started from, but really strong now, really like it. And we've gone all over the place to find players. And one more thing. Thanks to that Nakambadio performance against Rennes, we've got ourselves to the Europa League final. What if a national team wasn't picked on reputation or legacy, but instead was picked entirely on data? Well, today we're going to find out as I take charge of England, and some very famous faces might be in for a bit of a shock. Okay, so we've taken over early, so the start of the season that's just finished, so it's 2025. That does mean there's a load of World Cup qualifiers to make sure we get through, but quite honestly, Alan Pardew could lead this team to get qualified, so it shouldn't be a problem. So because we've got qualifiers to get through, I'm going to slot in a tactic, one that will be pretty basic and similar to what they will probably play in this year's tournament. Next, I'll keep the current squad for the qualifiers while I wait for data to build up around the world. And when I say around the world, I mean it, because we've got all these leagues active plus 75,000 total players to look through. Now, because of the way we're approaching this, we need to sort our staff out pronto. Most importantly, I need this performance analyst in, and I need the scouting team bulked out as well. That's because everyone starts with a clean slate and it all depends on how they perform this season in terms of data to give ourselves the best possible chance. Each role and position you see here will come down to various targeted metrics. And that is where this section comes in, scouting focuses. For each position on this tactic, I'm going to want them to do a certain job, starting with ball winning centre back. Setting up the scout focuses pretty simply, going into further details, and they're going to look for high performance in tackles per 90 and possession won. Simple as that. And we're going to do that for each position on this tactic. Right folks, welcome in. A little bit different this one, isn't it? I'm not sure how it's going to go. It might be an absolute disaster. Bear in mind that whoever finishes top of this ball-winning centre-backs search, they are getting in the squad no matter what league they're in. So we might end up with our starting centre-back being from the Championship, or maybe from France's Ligue 2, if there's any Englishmen in there. So yeah, this is a very different way of building a national team squad, especially for a World Cup, but why the hell not? So we've got the ball-winning centre-back search underway. Next to him, I want an aerially dominant centre-back. So just a guy that's going to win all the headers. So from scratch, this is what we're going to do. Create a new scouting focus. Position, there we go, centre-back. Once we get to main details, I'm just going to rename it. So heading centre-back, nice and easy. Very importantly, it's going to be ongoing, so we keep getting that data refreshed. Once I get my scouts, etc. in at the club, they will be assigned. Then the big one, the stats, we'll go to defending and we're purely going to look for headers won and headers won ratio. That's it. So my thinking is there that they'll kind of help each other out. One of them's going to go for the ball, go for the headers. The other one will concentrate on winning the tackles. For the fullback positions, I'm going to have one attacking fullback, which will probably be the right back. And on the other side, we're going to have a fullback that concentrates on just progressing the ball nicely into the more creative midfielders. So they're both set up, passing fullback, attacking fullback. Passing fullback, we've got pass completion percentage, I'll get into why shortly. And attacking fullback, we've got dribbles per 90 and cross completion. So hopefully you can see the difference in the two targeted fullbacks. But this is only one way we're going to do it because we are still a little bit limited. Not all the data comes up on these scout searches, which is a little bit frustrating. This is the fullback for passing, so what I would like to see is progressive passes per 90 minutes. But unfortunately down the various columns there just isn't an option for that, so we're going to have to do that ourselves. But that's not a problem, because if you've been watching any of these analyst videos we've been doing, we go through the various leagues and we go to the player stats. So when this league starts kicking off and the player stats starts filling up, I can spend a bit of time looking through those and then picking out the players that we're going to take. I'll use that combined with all these various scout focuses I've got, the two centre backs, the two full backs, the hard working central midfielder, the creative attacking midfielder, the wingers, and of course the goal machine. The goal machine, by the way, I would expect decent results coming purely from that scout focus. I'm only asking for goals per 90 minutes and total goals. And the final way I'm going to track players is by using the player database and creating my own filters for each position. What you see here is the striker position. You can see pretty simple stuff: appearances, goals, XG, shot percentage, conversion percentage. And by the time the European season gets going, this will fill right up. These players are all playing around the world. Sam Surridge, for example, 11 in 20, will he make the squad? I've created various search filters for this screen: fullbacks, wingers, creative central midfielders, centre backs, strikers. There's a centre backs one, for example. You can see an emphasis on possession won and tackles, but if I'm going for the other type of defender, I'll prioritise headers. And it also cranks the pressure on the current established squad. If Declan Rice, for example, has a nightmare season, he won't be going no matter how good he is. So you can't say we don't have options to track these players. We're not going to miss anything, so the best players are going to make this squad. And the good news was we should get some pretty decent player reports because the staff squad is now fully loaded up. And after assigning the scouts to various different categories, the reports are in progress and the season hasn't even started yet. When it did get started, we had a few qualifiers to get through, and it's fair to say that we did okay in those. Qualifying with a 100% record, and yes, that is a 12-0 win. So which of the established squad did impress? Probably not surprising to hear that Harry Kane, well, he was quite good. In the 5 qualifiers that I took charge of, he scored 14. Another standout was another attacking player, and that was Saka. The Arsenal man was superb, giving me 2 goals and 3 assists and a stunning average rating. But in the spirit of this little save, none of that actually matters. It all depends how they've been playing in their respective leagues. And in terms of Saka and the Premier League, he was leading the way in terms of average ratings. A good sign for him. He was also right up there in terms of assists per 90 minutes, and you will notice some other English players making a statement as well. And as for Harry Kane, well, you could say he's having a decent season with Bayern Munich, scoring 20 times. He's top in the Bundesliga for goals and assists. Being top of most metrics, it's safe to say he's got a hell of a chance to be on that World Cup plane. But we are only halfway through the season, and if we look at the striker data search, well, Harry Kane does indeed top all English strikers. He's in a good position. A few well-known players are under threat though. Cole Palmer did well for us with 4 goals, 2 assists, but his form for his club has not been that good. If we look at him in the Premier League, he's only scored twice, going at 0.28 goals per 90 minutes, but that's okay because I want him to be a creator. But he's only assisted 0.15 per 90 minutes. Not ideal. If you add that to his key passes where he's at 31, if we go to key passes in the Premier League, he's all the way down in position 29. So players like him need a big second half of the season. In fact, there's a good chance we could find ourselves looking at the Championship, looking at the player stats, and finding ourselves an outlier in terms of key passes, and they may well end up going and not a player like Cole Palmer. Now, decisions like that are all for later in the season, but it's interesting just to keep track of them now halfway through the season to see who's looking like they're going to make the squad. Because there's some good players like Reece James, right? And he's been good for me in the England setup. For his club, however, this is him in the Prem. I've got to decide what type of fullback I want him to be. Do I want him to be that attacking one, where I'm going to look for dribbles, more of a winger? Or do I want him to be a ball player, progressing the ball? If it's a ball player, I'm looking for pass completion ratio, which is good at 91%, but I'm also going to look for progressive passes. So at the minute, he's doing 8.34 per 90 minutes. And as it stands halfway through the season, Miles Lewis-Skelly is doing a cracking job of that, but he'll be playing left back. And as I scroll on down, there is some English players popping up, most of them left backs, but then it looks like he might be in a bit of trouble because Tino Livramento, Joe Gomez and Kyle Walker are all available. Now, in fairness, that only includes the Premier League, and he has been playing at the Champions League and the Cup competitions, so to check it all out, I found the best way is to go to player database, slap in one of my filters, so this is progressive fullback search, and now we've got them in order, all the English players under the sun, and as I look at it, I don't see Reece James anywhere to be seen. In fact, he's all the way down here, there he is. So at the minute, if I was just judging it on progressive passes alone, the man ain't going. In fact, at this early point in the season, Lewis-Skelly looks a shoo-in, as does Ben White, Rico Lewis, even Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who's playing at Lyon. But if you've been following the Analyst series, you'll know we make a bit of an informed decision using about 3 or 4 different metrics, so we're going to try and make a balanced decision, not just off the one metric. In the meantime, we had another friendly, this time against the US, with Saka supplying Cole Palmer. Tried a little tweak on the tactic there, but largely the same players, Trent getting in. But time was ticking on, and it is soon time to make that squad announcement. And the media aren't helping, putting pressure on me to select players like Mark Gahey, telling me to discard Marcus Rashford, lack of game time, and in an absolute disaster for me, both Saka and Morgan Rogers are missing the World Cup. And when you look at how they've been playing this season, oh my days. It's fair to say that both of them would have gone to the World Cup. So the final squad build is complete. I'm going to show you that shortly. In the meantime, let me know down below who you think is going to win the World Cup and where you think England will finish. England, for me, will get knocked out in the last 16 by Mexico, and your winners will be Brazil or Mexico. So it was time to pick the preliminary squad. I'm allowed up to 55 players, but I'm not going to go that mad. So first up was the goalkeeper position, and we need 3 goalkeepers to go in the squad. So there's quite a lot I was using to judge these players to make an informed decision. You've got the likes of save percentage, clean sheets, how many goals conceded per 90, goals prevented per 90, and total goals expected to be prevented. Undisputed England number 1 Jordan Pickford is there with 37 appearances, good save percentage, 14 clean sheets, but he's conceded 1.2 goals per 90 minutes, and his expected goals prevented is just 3.7, and you can see around him players are getting in some big numbers. And when you see the players around him, there's not many established names. There is Dean Henderson, who was in the squad, but wait for it. My 3 goalkeepers that will be going to the World Cup are Jack Butland, Carl Rushworth and Wes Foderingham. As mad as it sounds, those 3 are the goalkeepers that are going to the World Cup. If this doesn't show you that I was serious when I said I was going to pick on data, nothing will. Butland, Rushworth and Fotheringham all lead the way in terms of save percentage, a massive amount of clean sheets. Conceded per 90, they're under 1 per match, and they are all preventing a ton of goals. No doubt I'll get some grief for this. For example, Wes Fotheringham is playing for Aris Limassol in Cyprus. Carl Rushworth is on loan from a Premier League team in Brighton, and he's playing for Coventry in the Championship. And Jack Butland is up at Rangers. Next up, it was those full-back positions, and I want 2 different roles from the full-backs, as you can see. One progressing the ball and being a bit of a ball player, one being more of an attacking full-back. So to make an informed decision here, I was looking at progressive passes per 90 minutes to go alongside pass percentage, possession won, tackles per 90. Those were my main standouts. So it is tricky when you're considering loads of different metrics, but if we look at Ben White, for example, 12 progressive passes per 90, so he's moving the ball well, and it's a good percentage. He's winning the ball back a lot as well, making a lot of tackles per match. He's an absolute certainty. Now I did rule Ainsley Maitland-Niles out because for Leon he was playing mostly as a winger. So then it became a choice between Rico Lewis, Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold. It was all really tight because they all had good progressive passes, good pass percentage and pretty damn decent possession won. I ended up choosing Reece James and Trent purely for the reason they've played more than Rico, only 19 appearances, and most of them were off the bench. Next up was that attacking left-back position, and it's a little different this one because the priorities change a bit. I'm looking for crosses attempted per 90, dribbles per 90, and distance per 90. Those were the 3 priorities. And despite having a good season, this is where Miles Lewis-Skelly came a cropper because he was not that type of defender, offering only 0.8 crosses and not many dribbles. Luke Shaw, on the other hand, was getting 3 crosses away per match and covering a decent amount of distance. However, the standout players were Lewis Hall with 3.1 per match, dribbles at 1.5 and a lot of distance, and Leif Davis of Ipswich. All 3 players are in the preliminary squad and I'll have to choose 2 out of the 3 players. Next up, it was the centre-back combination, and I'm looking for 2 different types of centre-back. The first was the ball-winning centre-back, so he's going to be the more aggressive one, looking to win the ball back with possession 1 per 90, tackles per 90. And this is where some more shock players come into the mix. Jacob Greaves, who's playing for Ipswich Town, absolutely outstanding in terms of possession won, 19.4 per match. Doing it at a competitive 0.7 tackles per 90 and 78% win record. And that isn't even considering his fantastic heading. He's in the squad. Also in the squad is Lewis Gibson, who's playing for Preston. Winning the ball back 13.1 with a tackle win ratio of 91. And you can't argue the amount of headers that he's winning. Joe Gomez also gets in, as does Mark Gee. He does make it with 13.3 possessions, 1 per 90 and a 68% tackle win ratio. Just edging out Will Fish, who did have a superior possession 1 per 90. His tackle ratio though, at just 50%, counted against him. So now the guy at the back who just wins the headers. So while I will consider the possession won and the tackles, the main thing I'm looking at is headers and header won percentage. And top of the tree by an absolute mile was Ethan Pye, 240 headers. He's playing for Stockport County and he gets called up to the England squad. Also getting in was Jared Branthwaite, who had a great season of headers, 182, and he won it at an exceptional 83%. There was some validation on some of the other picks. Mark Gee and Lewis Gibson both featured when I was looking for a defender to win the ball, so they're good all-rounders. Jarrell Kwanzaa makes it, as does Southampton's Taylor Harwood-Bellis. And just sneaking into the prelim squad is Ezra Konza. Some big players missing out, including John Stones and Harry Maguire. Next it was the midfielders in 2 different types, a defensive midfielder and a box-to-box. This led to the following 5 players getting called up: Adam Wharton, Declan Rice, Tyler Morton, Elliot Anderson and Jude Bellingham. For the more attacking of the 2 midfielders, Declan Rice and Tyler Morton were particularly impressive, with key passes galore and key passes per 90. Jude Bellingham makes it thanks to being top of assists per 90 minutes in La Liga, and he rounded it off with an all-round performance, winning the ball back an absolute ton. The other men to make it, well, Miles Lewis-Skelly did force himself into the squad, but as a midfielder, finishing top of progressive passes per 90 minutes. And if you throw in the fact he covers a lot of distance as well, in he goes. Similar story for Elliot Anderson. Rico Lewis and Kobbie Mainoo just miss out. It was between Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Adam Wharton and Kobbie to see who got that last slot. In honesty, it was a toss-up between Wharton and Kobbie Mainoo. Loftus-Cheek, although he had the better statistics, he only started 5 matches in Serie A, so he was discounted. Next, it was those all-important attacking positions. Some incredible players turned up here. So I wanted 2 different types of wingers. The first, I wanted to be more of a traditional winger, just concentrating on dribbling like crazy. So I was looking at dribbles and dribbles per 90 with a little eye on assists per 90. Leading the way was Morgan Rogers and Bukayo Saka, but obviously we can't take them. And that's where Amario Cozier Dewberry comes in. A whopping 232 dribbles at 5.3 per 90 minutes, but he also was pretty threatening in terms of assists. The youngster from Brighton on loan at Bolton in League One, he's in the World Cup preliminary squad. And the shocks didn't end there because the next man going in was Jadon Sancho. Good amount of dribbles, astonishingly high amount of dribbles per 90 minutes and good assists. Next I wanted wingers who were showing a bit more in terms of assists and a bit more in terms of goal scoring. Again, those top two, Saka and Rodgers, unavailable. Cole Palmer does get a reprieve here because he can play out wide. He got 12 assists at 0.3 and 14 goals. Then I had some decisions to make between Noni Madueke, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Jared Bowen, Anthony Gordon. Well, what if I told you none of those ended up going? Perhaps tough on Madueke, he had some good data, but I just discounted him due to the fact he didn't start many matches. Believe it or not, it came down to 3 players. Phil Foden, Raheem Sterling, who's at Feyenoord, and a player you might not have heard of in Charles Vernam. So who the hell is Charles Vernam? Well, what if I told you he plays for Grimsby Town, and that's in League 2 in England. And here's where the big shocker comes. Because Raheem Sterling beats Phil Foden to get into the squad, because they were so close, I looked at the dribbles as well to look for an all-round winger, and at 135, more than 100 more than Phil Foden. Granted, that might be down to the way Man City play, but I don't care. This is all about data, so that means Sterling's in, and more shockingly, so is Charles Vernam. This guy could be your new favourite player. So this was taking an absolute age to pick this squad based on data, but I'm nearly there now, and it's time now for the main event, the strikers. So this one was quite easy and quite simple. Goals per 90, and then if we can't separate them, we're going to look at shot percentage, conversion percentage, and maybe even assists, but that's very much at the back of the queue. Now I won't lie to you, I was delighted to see Harry Kane finishing on top of pretty much every metric under the sun, ironclad starter. Also coming is Ivan Toney, who had a great season in Saudi Arabia. Ollie Watkins makes the trip as well with 20 goals at 0.5 goals per 90, a cracking shot on target percentage of 52%, and crucially for him, a 21% conversion rate. That was crucial because he had some big competition for this preliminary squad. From players that you may not have heard of, Alex Simmons, Glenn Taylor, Carl Wooten, Jay Stansfield, Will Lanarkshire, Divine Mabamba. And into the squad come Oxford United striker Will Lanarkshire. He's on loan from Tottenham and scored 17 times in the Championship. And perhaps even more shocking, Carl Wooten from Stockport County with 22 goals in League One. He's in the prelim squad. And that was the completed 34-man squad that will need to be whistled down to 26 in a couple of weeks. Of course, there was uproar about some of my decisions, especially the goalkeepers and the forwards. Loads of the established names miss out as this is the squad that will go for the next couple of friendlies as we play Portugal and Brazil before making our final choice for that World Cup squad. So into the World Cup warm-up matches we went. I chose a team very experimental, anchored down by some of the more veteran, established players. And what happened kind of blew my mind as we once again proved what a fraud Roberto Martinez is, because his ultra-talented Portugal team were absolutely destroyed. This included a scintillating debut from winger Cozier Dewberry, as despite having hardly any of the ball, we murdered them 7-2. A couple of days later, it was time for the countries to name their World Cup squads. So it's going to be tough dropping these 34 players down to 26. I think in the spirit of this, what I'm going to do is drop a couple of the more established players to give some of these randoms a bit of a chance. Like Sir Charles Vernam, who has got his first England cap in that game against Portugal. I've got to take him. So the final England squad, missing out Ezra Konsa, Taylor Howard-Bellis, Jarrell Kwanzaa, Joe Gomez, Luke Shaw, Reece James, Cole Palmer and Ollie Watkins. We had one more warm-up match and it was against mighty Brazil. I picked a bit of a mix and match starting 11, and in this one we gave Brazil a bit of a scare at times. We lost the match, but we were by far the better side, so I'm kind of excited going into this World Cup. So we've arrived at the first game of the World Cup. The question is, do I play some of those random names? Like Cozier Dewberry, has he deserved a start? We took the lead thanks to a new player, Cozier Dewberry's little through ball to Jude Bellingham. And as we approached half time, we were looking the better team. Uruguay got the second half equaliser, hitting us on the break. With Kane struggling, I brought on Will Lancashire, and what do you know it, he put us back in front. In what will probably be our hardest group game, we came through the test and the new players got involved and had a massive say in it. That last match showed me that some of my lesser known players can compete, so in the next game against Panama, I selected a bit of an experimental lineup. And it proved to be the right move as all the new players got involved, looking really confident, and Cozier Dewberry out on that right hand side looks like a superstar as he supplies Lancashire for one of his 2 goals. A scintillating performance from all involved. For the final group game against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I rotated again. Goalkeeper Wes Foderingham, he gets his debut. This was also the match where I played Mr. Vernam, Grimsby's finest, in the number 10 position, and he produced this wonder goal. Meaning we topped our group with 3 wins out of 3, only conceding the 1 goal. I rotated once again, moving Trent into central midfield. We were coming up against Cameroon, who were playing 3 at the back. Now, if you're as old as me, you may remember Italia 90, my favourite World Cup, where England played Cameroon, and this match was eerily similar to that one. In the 82nd minute, Brian Mbeumo put Cameroon in front, 2-1 down. In the 93rd minute, 2 of the shock call-ups combined. Cozier Dewberry found Leif Davis, the left back, he returned the ball back to him, 2-2. And a late Harry Kane penalty, just like Lineker, got us through. Yeah, that was so similar to the game in Italia 90. That put us into the round of 16, and this is where it's getting tough because we've drew Italy. Now, as a caveat, as you know, Italy are not at this season's World Cup, but because we started this game at the start of the season, they're qualified. But I guess you could say justice was done as Elliot Anderson provided star man Jadon Sancho to score twice. It meant this random data-driven squad was into the quarterfinals where we'll play Croatia. There was your quarter-final lineup. Some big teams have gone by the wayside. There's no Argentina, there's no Portugal, there's no Germany, and how about the US getting to the semi-finals? So for this one, I went quite strong, but there were still at least 5 players in there you wouldn't expect to be starting the match, and Croatia still had Modric. Scary. Early in the match, we were having next to none of the ball. It was super tight with no shots for either team. Just before half-time, I have dropped the mentality down to balanced, and we're definitely playing better. With an hour gone, it was 2 of the more established players that were struggling, Trent and Harry Kane. I made a triple sub. On came Ben White, Tyler Morton and Will Lancashire. And instantly Lancashire went really close. And then after 85 minutes it happened. Bellingham down the left, whipped it across, and who was there but Big Will? Has he just become England's #1 striker? It was super tight, but we deserved the win and we march on to the semis. And with the Netherlands beating France, the semi-final lineup was Spain v the US and ourselves up against the Netherlands. So devastating news for a few of the boys. Sancho and Davis, who have been both superb, are missing this match through suspension. Leif Davis at left back has played 3 of the matches. He's got a 7.47 average rating and his value has shot up to 58 million top line. You are welcome, Ipswich. And Sancho scored 4 times in 5 matches. So with Raheem Sterling also injured, it does mean that Mr. Grimsby, Charles Vernam, starts in the World Cup semi-final out on the left. So we made it to the semi-finals and Harry Kane put us in front. But the Netherlands fired back with Xavi Simons playing as a false 9. He scored twice as the Netherlands fired back with 3 goals. Harry Kane got us back into it late on, but it wasn't enough as the Netherlands held on and they make the World Cup final. It's the US in the final. They beat Spain in extra time. So close, but so far. We'll see who wins the World Cup shortly, but I'm telling you, if Tuchel's men do better than this, I will eat my hat. There's no chance they're getting as far as we've got. Even more annoyingly, we played amazing in the 3rd place playoff against Spain and battered them 5-2. And despite that, the country still weren't happy. No shock there. But we still had a great run, rising England to 2nd in the world rankings, which is a pretty good showing. Was it the random players we brought in due to data? Was it some of the established names doing the heavy lifting? Or was it a decent setup and tactic? I like to think it was a combination of all 3. But it is another reminder that there are some gems out there if you look a bit deeper into the game.